I just wanna lay here. Don't know what I'm waiting for. Don't know what I'm aiming for. I've just gotta feel it. Late night, yeah, my head be spinning around. Yeah, I was once lost, but baby, you got me feeling found. It's time to show me how it's done. This is the glow up. Come on, it's time to have some fun. Yeah, that's right. We're gonna break it down. We giving big love. We're gonna show them how it's done. That's right. We're gonna show them. I've got to keep fighting. Strike hard, I'm like lightning. It's my life, I rewrite it. Yeah, I'm gonna show ya. Late night, yeah, my head be spinning around. Yeah, I was once lost, but baby, you got me feeling found. It's time to show them how it's done. This is the go up. Come on, it's time to have some fun. Yeah, that's right. We're gonna break it down. We giving big love. We're gonna show them how it's done. That's right. We're gonna show them. I know we're gonna make it. We just played a waiting game. I know that we were born for this. I know that we are stronger. We just gotta believe in something. You just gotta believe in us. I know that we were born for this. I've got to keep fighting. It's time to show them how it's done. Yeah, this is the glow up. Strike hard, I'm like lightning. It's time to have some fun. Yeah, it's my life, that's right. And I've got to keep fighting. We're giving big love. We're gonna show them how it's done. That's right. Come on, this is our time, and we're gonna show them.
Hello and welcome to the NASCAR Hall of Fame, the site of tonight's eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series Championship. Before we kick off the show, we want to take a moment to show you some of the initiatives that NASCAR has in terms of disaster relief from Hurricane Helene. NASCAR and Charlotte Motor Speedway will host an all-day donation drive at CMS on Wednesday, October 2nd. Donations will be received by Wilkins County officials and transported to neighboring affected counties in conjunction with Samaritan's Purse on Thursday. Talladega Superspeedway will collect donations at the track this upcoming race weekend. Martinsville Speedway will host a water drive at the racetrack on Friday afternoon, October 4th. Darlington Raceway is planning a track laps for charity event on October 10th with proceeds supporting aid for affecting families. For those interested in making a financial contribution, the NASCAR Foundation is accepting donations to support the American Red Cross in its disaster relief efforts. Donations can be made by visiting www.nascarfoundation.org/Helene. We hope that tonight our goal here is really to help create some normalcy in all of your lives for everyone that's affected. We are truly thinking of you. Thank you for joining the show, and we hope you enjoy the show.
Tonight on Countdown to Green, we take a look back at our path to the championship. We sit down and chat with our championship contenders. And we take a look at how you're racing at home. All that and more, live from the NASCAR Hall of Fame.
Hello and welcome to the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. This is Countdown to Green, and we are here at the NASCAR Hall of Fame for the championship race of the season. Energy is high. I am feeling great. You see the marching band. I'm your host, Camille Salazar-Hadaway. Joining me as always, we have Alan Cabana, we have Blake McCandless, but I'm sorry, guys, because right now, the show is this marching band.
What are you saying? Huh? I can't hear you. This is incredible. Just what an atmosphere they've created. We had the percussion for the Carolina Panthers that are out here with us, and they just wrote it right as we were starting the top of our show, Alan. Again, just plays into the atmosphere that everybody here at the Hall of Fame is creating for these Championship 4 drivers.
You know it's a big deal when you have a marching band here. It is the championship. A new champion will be crowned. The big trophy, $100,000. Percussion as the soundtrack. We even have mascots. I think we have Sir Purr, Lugnut from Charlotte Motor Speedway.
Yeah, I saw Hugo the Hornet just a second ago.
Hugo the Hornet from the Charlotte Hornets. All the big names are here so we can make our champion tonight. It's the biggest night live at the NASCAR Hall of Fame. It's so cool. Third year we've done this. It gets bigger every year.
It gets bigger every year and louder, apparently. Everyone, make some noise if you're excited for the championship today. Yes, you hear the crowd. I saw the Hornet was backing that thing up with one band. It was dancing. There was some twerking happening. I don't know. It was all in good fun. But we are here for the championship race. It's going to be a great show tonight because we're going to be able to have some guests throughout the night. We're also maybe be able to talk to some of the drivers' family, hopefully.
Who knows?
But before we get into the atmosphere and everything that the championship brings, we do have to take a look back at what happened in Phoenix.
And remember, this was several weeks ago at this point, this race at Phoenix Raceway. What an opportunity this was for drivers to try and punch their ticket into this Championship 4 with just one race left to do it. We saw a lot of chaos and a lot of action at the very end of that race, too, to decide it.
Absolutely. It was so interesting because 3 of the 4 spots tonight were up for grabs in this race. And I think we saw some of that, I don't know if you want to call it desperation, but we certainly saw some of the action with so much on the line. Blake, 13 cautions for 48 laps. That just goes to show you what was going on in this race, what was on the line, because you had to worry about a winner, you had to worry about your points position, you had to worry about just about finishing, and then you have this stuff going on in the back stretch. Big wrecks, having to avoid it, all with this $100,000 potentially on the line as they try to cut through that dog leg.
And again, we saw such a great mix, right, of playoff drivers, non-playoff drivers that were at the front of this race. You could see on board of Steven Wilson, he didn't have anything to worry about. He had already won his way into the championship for virtue of his win at Texas Motor Speedway. You see one of the eRacer cars, that's Tyler Gary, going for a slide right there, but it was all about those drivers who were towards the front. You could see that blue 53 car that was starting to make his way towards the front at the end of the night. Still a lot more going on, though.
Yeah, and I'm thinking about Vicente Salas. Led so many laps.
Yeah.
He was one of the drivers that had to either get the win or hopefully be hopeful on points, but he led so many laps in this race. And then you had Graham Boland and Bobby Zielinski behind there, right, hoping that 53 car would be the one that went to victory lane, because that's what helped get all three of them to the championship. Parker White getting the big win. You hear the cheers there. 4 drivers have that shot because of the Phoenix race now at the $100,000.
And they have a shot to win that trophy right there, the Dale Earnhardt Jr. Cup. And this is how we got there. This was our playoff standings coming in. 10 drivers. We have 1 round in the playoffs here in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series, and we've trimmed it down to 4. A couple of names that are very familiar, not only with making the championship 4 in this series, but doing it here as well in this venue at the NASCAR Hall of Fame. Steven Wilson, Parker White, who each won their way to this round, and you have Graham Boland, who won in the regular season finale to make the playoffs, and Bobby Zielinski, who is yet again here for another championship 4 appearance.
And let's not forget about the team standings. A lot of pride, some money on the line as well. Look at the teams in the top 4. 29 points separate the top 4 in the team standings. Remember, this is both drivers, so you can get a swing of 73 points in just one race tonight. That is what's up for grabs. And not so coincidentally, M80 represented by Steven Wilson, Joe Gibbs Racing represented by Bobby Zielinski. The best of the best are also carrying their teams to potentially a title. We don't see that too often. The driver title, the team title, it could happen tonight for one of these teams and one of these combinations. That's a lot of hardware to bring home.
There's so much on the line tonight for the drivers that are obviously competing for $100,000 and a shot at a championship, but you also have to think about everything else that's going on. Relegation is really tight here tonight as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure tonight for all the drivers, not just the 4 that are here, but everyone, because like you mentioned, relegation is on the line for a lot of them. So let's talk about that. Relegation standings. Let's take a look exactly at how that's panning out, because I mean, it could be a tight race for a lot.
It can be. Again, there's 20 drivers that are looking for their spot in this series, unless if they don't stay in the top 20 here, they have to go back down to the Contender Series, and they may be bargaining with me for a shot to get in this series. But we're really looking at about that 19th through 25th place cut line, and it is really close. Remember, Brian LaPrade, a non-playoff driver, got a win at Michigan International Speedway a couple weeks ago, but Michael Guest, Colin Keister, Malik Ray, Garrett Maines, I think you could throw Wyatt Tinsley in the conversation as well. If they have a very strong night tonight, it's just all about points, but they don't want to put themselves in any doubt. They want to be able to make that top 20, but about 4 or 5 drivers there going for 1 or 2 spots.
Yeah, they're fighting for their future tonight. And then you look at Bobby Zielinski and some of the other drivers who are here live in the Hall of Fame, putting the practice laps in, doing their qualifying. These drivers that you're seeing now, they don't have anything to worry about. Well,
they do. I mean, they have a lot of dollars to
they have
worry about.
100,000 things to worry about, I guess. But no relegation there. But if you want to qualify, if you want to be one of these drivers, Blake, what do you have to do? Because you're climbing this ladder right now. You're trying to be one of these drivers. We could very well see you up on this stage next year.
Well, again, we see a little bit of changes heading into 2025 when you look at the left-hand side of your screen, the eNASCAR Qualifying Road to Pro iRacing Series that will be done about the same way as it was this year. You have round 1 where pretty much any iRacer with a Class A 2.0 license is eligible to compete to try and make the top 68 in the standings. It's been 70 in the past, but we'll talk about why it'll be 68 in a moment. Then those 68 drivers will move on along with our top 2 competitors from the eNASCAR College iRacing Series. That'll be a shift as we look forward to 2025. But then the eNASCAR Contender iRacing Series, top 30 of those drivers will be eligible to be signed for a Coke Series contract. So about 50 drivers looking for about 40 spots on each of these respective 20 teams heading into 2025. 2025.
And that just shows you, it makes you appreciate the ladder climb that all the drivers have had to do to get to this point, exactly what you have to do. And especially now I'm glad they include the college aspect of it.
Yes.
Now. That gets to be a part of the ladder climb. Cool paint schemes. The college deal is really new to this. I like it.
I mean, when you have someone like Steven Wilson, who's a previous champ for the series, but also previous college champ, it just seems right to add college into this as well.
It really does. And again, heard a lot of great speakers on the panel that you had here at the NASCAR Hall of Fame just about an hour ago or so, talking about the many different initiatives that they're working through with esports, but the college series in particular was a big focus. So great to see not only the race that took place at Daytona a week ago, in which we saw the NASCAR Xfinity Series cars and a ton of drivers, hundreds, tried to qualify, and some of them ran even hundreds of qualifying laps to try and make this race. So it was very competitive to try and get there. You see, unfortunately, that big wreck that happens at the end, sometimes that can happen at Daytona, but next time up, it'll be the NASCAR Craftsman trucks that are competing as well at a track that I love on the service, Lucas Oil International Raceway Park. My grandfather won a U.S. Nationals just across the street from there, so very special to see that track return to the schedule.
That's amazing. That's awesome to see this all play out. And remember that next race is coming October 8th at 7 p.m. Now, we got to talk about, you mentioned quickly that panel that was happening earlier, Alan, that you had the pleasure of being a part of. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, we had a really cool panel here about the future of esports and iRacing and how it all plays in, and into the real-world aspect of NASCAR racing as well. But I think the big takeaway from it was there's a future in this growing field, right, in esports and iRacing. Those are going to be new jobs, new opportunities, maybe jobs we don't even think about yet, that don't even exist, but the skills have to be there. And that was really the focus of the panel, is where are those skills going to come from, who's going to help provide them, who are the youngsters that are going to want to get those skills, and how are they going to take those gaming dreams, if you will, and apply them to real-world aspects and a career. The future is bright for this industry, and we see it every year. I mean, just think about what we do over the course of a season, the events that we get to do with these live events, and how big, and all the jobs that are involved behind the scenes, not just driving, in sim racing. And it's going to be an industry in and of itself, and they're going to need people to fill those jobs, and that was the big focus.
And it's not exactly just driving, right? I know iRacing, driving seems to be the general consensus there, but there's just so many aspects of the industry, and to kind of have that your eyes opened in a way to all the different aspects in which the sim racing world, the esports world can all kind of integrate. It was really fascinating to catch up on that.
Well, Raja Karuth was talking about that. You know, he's just killing it in real world racing, but then also in school and really trying to understand the marketing side of NASCAR and how that all works. It's just like you really are a true fan of NASCAR and driving and just
Speaking
trying
of
to
fans.
make it. Yeah, oh yeah, there we go. Can I just tell you, one of the pleasures of being here live, of course seeing you two, but more importantly, seeing Grandma Wilson, who is not in the shot. Sorry, the Charlotte Hornet saw me say that and was kind of offended that I love you too. I love you too.
His name's Hugo, by the way.
I know, Hugo, we love you too. But Hugo is putting on a show right now. I wish the camera could capture Hugo right now because it's just amazing how we're just here in person. We usually are behind these screens, but we get to meet in person. We get to meet the families. You get to meet Hugo and Hugo taking pictures with fans as well. And you're really just seeing what makes this series so special. It really is a community through and through that is bleeding with so much passion for driving.
And you were mentioning that was Steven Wilson's family. They make the trek from Iowa. They have custom T-shirts this year. I think it the Champions Tour seasons. So yeah, a lot of support here for the drivers tonight.
A lot of support. Well, you know what? It has been a pretty intense season. Some things went the way we thought they would, but a lot of it didn't. Let's talk about the overall season and our thoughts for the season. I want to start really with you. Alan, let's start with you.
Well, I was just thinking about the talent that we've seen emerge throughout the season. From the first race that we saw of the year, Wyatt Tinsley goes out there, young driver on the scene, goes out there and wins. We saw Malik Ray win Talladega. Tucker Minter, young driver, second year, continue to have success. Briar LaPrade got his win. But guess what? At the end of the day, who's on stage here at the NASCAR Hall of Fame? It's the experience. It's the veteran Steven Wilson. It's the veteran Bobby Zalinski, the veteran Graham Boland. only one fresh face, really. Congrats, of course, to Parker White for getting here. But it just dawned on me, yes, the future is bright in terms of the younger talent that's coming up. But when it comes to the playoffs, when it comes to the pressure and getting the big money, 3 out of the 4 here are the veterans, and that's what really counts.
And that's kind of what stuck out to me as well. We've had a chaotic year. We've had a lot of different winners. We've had a lot of different drivers that went to many different racetracks. You see Malik Ray right there doing a burnout. He won at Atlanta. We saw Wyatt Tinsley win the season opening race at Daytona. Neither one of those drivers qualified for the playoffs because they failed to stay in the top 20. So despite the fact we have all these different winners, we have a number of races that, yes, it came down to some pretty aggressive finishes, a lot of late race yellows and everything. But look at our championship 4 drivers that I don't think we're shocked at all to see here. And again, we talk about familiar faces. Bobby Zielinski starting to lose count of how many times he's made the championship 4. Steven Wilson, your champion for a year ago, trying to become the first driver since Ray Alfalla to repeat. Parker White, he's been kind of one of those crops of those drivers the last couple of years that has come in and really made an impact. But got to say, despite the fact we've had so much chaos this year, it is still the same elite drivers that we see competing for this championship.
Well, you know what Alan mentioned earlier, a name, Steven Wilson, and I have to say, I think we could be entering a Steven Wilson dynasty, or as his family's shirts will say, a Wilson era. Really, he's been the name that from the start of the series this year, we cannot get out of our mouths because he, race after race, he's just delivered consistently and really carrying his team through it as well. And it seems like all of the pressure that comes from this series really isn't affecting him because he was able to win the College Series too. So, I mean, if there's no other, you see it
Look
right
at that,
there.
that Eras Tour t-shirt. I love that.
It is the Eras Tour. Well, you know, he's a fan of Taylor, so it just makes sense.
You know, Graham Boland said he didn't have aura, but it may be the Wilson era. Who knows?
No!
Graham Boland is a trash talker. I went up there and I was talking about the T-Swift shirt, and Graham Boland started beefing like it was a rap battle. And he goes, if this is a rap battle, I'm Kendrick Lamar. That's what he said. Like, who comes up with this stuff? Graham Boland is dropping bars, and he is ready to talk some stuff tonight and say, you know what? He doesn't have any aura.
Yeah, well, you know what? It is. Let's talk about the drivers because, you know, the 4 of them are here. They're in a different atmosphere, a different setup than they're used to. And I feel like that alone is another added pressure that we don't even really get to talk about a lot.
It is much different. Again, sim racing, you're confined to your own space. You have your own setup. There's so many different customizations in terms of wheels, monitors, everything that you're used to seeing. And plus having this Dale Earnhardt Jr. Cup in the background, all the lights shining on it. You can see all of the champions of seasons past that are a part of this as well. Again, all these fans, all these lights, that trophy, even having us here. Again, there's just so much that goes into making this a unique event, and only a couple drivers can really adjust to that.
Are you saying there's no marching band when you're doing this at your home rig?
Not usually.
Yeah, not usually.
Safe to say.
We got to see that on rigs next year. Someone come in with a marching band while showing us your rigs, which we'll get to later in the show. But for now, speaking of rigs, we got to talk about these rigs that these drivers are on. And for that, we have Letarte here to tell us more about how these rigs could affect a driver.
Well, Camille, when I think of the big differences between racing in your own rig, in your own home, and the live audience of NASCAR Hall of Fame, I think there are some big challenges. The Coke Series driver are the best stock car drivers in the world when it comes to the sim, and they do it because of their rigs. They have customized these rigs, single screen, multi-screen. What do they like their pedals like? What do they like their steering like? More importantly, where is that set up? Is it set up in the comfort of your bedroom, the comfort of your basement? Where in your house, where in your apartment are you most comfortable to race? That comfort is out the window when their rigs get moved to the stage at the NASCAR Hall of Fame. There'll be a lot of distractions. Which driver figures it out, finds a way to zone back in on their rig and find the comfort of home when they're in front of a live audience at the Hall?
Yeah, it's good to get the perspective on what these drivers are doing and how just different it is, right? I mean, to see what their home setups usually are, then they have to bring all that here. I was trying to check it out. I was trying to check it out earlier. They're able to bring their personalized steering wheels. We've seen it evolve. This is the third year we've done that. We were able to see kind of the setups evolve to make it a little more comfortable for the drivers.
Well, again, SimSeats came in and really conversed with these drivers. You could see some of them have 4 monitors, some of them have 1, like Graham Boland that you see right there. They did a good job at, I think, providing some degree of comfort for each of these drivers and keeping them somewhat used to what they're accustomed to, but also they did a lot of work. Even with Graham Boland, they were adjusting his throttle pedal a little bit earlier because he wanted to change that through some of his early practices. So I want to give a hats to SimSeats, of which there were a couple drivers, Donovan Strauss, Casey Kerwin, a part of those efforts, helping get these guys set up with all their rigs. So they did a really good job at that.
One of my favorite things about the rigs is the seats and how you have their names at the back. I don't believe we did do that last year, and it's just a really nice addition, and they're all kind of matching because it goes with their cars. So it's really cool to see that happen, and it's really cool to see all of you and your rigs at home. I really hope next year we get a rig with a marching band. Please make it happen. But for now, it is time for my favorite segment of each show, the Logitech Show Us Your Rigs, where we get to see your rigs at home that you send us on social media. Do you have a favorite one so far that we've seen?
Oh, look, I'm a diecast guy. I'm an old school NASCAR guy. So anybody that has cool old diecast set up with kind of the new wave, with the lighting, the RBG lighting, if you can mix both those things, you're going to be a favorite in my book.
I love anything that's old school, things that look really simple, because that's the type of sim rig that I have at home. I just strap a Logitech Driving Force GT onto the desk and I'm setting sail. So I love the intricate rigs that we have here and that we've been able to look at throughout the season, but I like seeing how bare bones it can be because, again, iRacing is accessible to about anybody. If you have a computer, a steering wheel, and a set of pedals, you can go racing.
Well, and that's the thing, right? Actually, Graham Boland was talking about how he's used to racing on a desk, and now he has this huge upgrade right here. But let's get to our first rig of the night. This one is from Donald. Ooh, looking very lots of screens there, Donald.
Look at all the monitors. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
lots
maybe
of buttons,
more.
too.
A lot of buttons. Are those all functional, Blake? What's going on?
I mean, you got a good, nice wheel there. All the buttons set up. You got the member site in the background. I love that as well. But man, these monitors are tall. Usually, you have some wide monitors, but these look about taller than just about anything else that I've seen. So very immersive. You can even see, I think that's a broadcast going on that fourth one on the top. Maybe that's what Parker White has tonight. Maybe he's got that going on as well.
This next one is from Gus. And Gus, is this a lefty setup?
Well, that means they're a good person if it's a lefty. They need a little cable management, but again, it's simple, right? I mean, that's all you need to get and be a part of this. It looks like maybe a little animal spot, so your little mascot up there for maybe a little cat, dog can watch you. That old school sneaker down there that looks like a Sean Kemp shoe I used to have, I think, if I'm looking at that. Old school stuff right there. I like this setup. I mean, simple. It's all you need.
I was about to say, that's what stuck out to me was that shifter on the left-hand side. Maybe you're running a little bit of Australian V8 supercars or something like that with this rig, but a very nice one here for Gus.
My thing is, where's the other shoe?
Great point.
Is Gus racing with the other shoe? Just the one shoe on? Gus, you got to let us know. This next one is from Cody, a very clean setup.
Yeah, this is like one we just saw, except with better cable management. So I give you kudos there. Just very sleek, clean. Looks like a kind of obviously a custom-built rig in terms of where the monitor is and everything. Blake, in terms of monitors, where do you stand? You just one? Is one okay? Do you like the immersive?
Well, one's good enough for me. I use 2 for racing, broadcasting, streaming, all that. But as far as just racing and what I need, all I need is one. It's convenient to have a window open, in my opinion. Used to have a 3 monitor setup, but we've kind of simplified here, which, you know what, good enough for me.
Good enough. All you need is the one in the desk. We love it. Let's get to our next rig. This one is from Michael, and we got a tire in the background.
Oh, we got so much. I just mentioned diecast. Look at those beautiful diecasts surrounding everything. We got the 164th in back of him. You got the old school COT diecast. I know we're supposed to be rating the rig here, but the atmosphere, that makes you fast.
Yeah.
I mean, the fast cars around you make you fast on the rig.
I love the fan, too.
That's what I was to say. The fast air from the fan will also make you fast.
Good aerodynamics. Good setup there.
Really a big fan of this one.
Oh, nailed it.
Nailed it. Our next one is from Jordan Racing, and this is intense. I think they packed this room with quite a lot of things.
I love Jordan's commitment. They spent far more on this frame than they did on any furniture in his apartment. I mean, this is commitment to iRacing, and I appreciate that, Blake.
I do too. And again, that monitor is a little further away than probably what I would want. But you know what? I'm like you. I appreciate the commitment to building the chassis as realistic as possible. And who knows? Maybe this is a work in progress. It looks like this is something that will continue to improve as time goes by. But yes, I'm like you. I appreciate the commitment here from Jordan.
Lots of commitment and lots of rigs that we've seen over the year, well, the series. Oh my gosh, I can't believe. But I mean, nothing outdoes these rigs right here. These sim seats are just so amazing, so cool, and we got to learn more about it.
Again, SimSeats did an incredible job setting up. They brought these rigs in for most of them several days ago. They had the opportunity to practice in their hotel rooms for the last couple of days. They finally made the change over to the Hall of Fame this morning. And again, a lot of SimSeats folks came in about 7, 8 o'clock this morning, getting everything, tearing everything down, and then building it back up to where they had pretty much most of the afternoon if they needed it to practice and get the last-minute preparations they need for qualifying, all of those things.
How important is as much personalization as they can do on these, right, is what you'd want, and how important is that for these drivers?
It's very important. And speaking of SimSeats, we talked about a couple of drivers helping out and getting some things lined up. How about Garrett Maines, who began his racing career in the SimSeat Spec E30 race car, and will have more to come in the 2025 season. Again, he's somebody who streams on Twitch. You can go watch him as he's competing tonight back at his home, but somebody that is looking to launch this SimSeats partnership into some more real-world opportunities.
Yeah, they call the NASA process, right? The National Auto Sport Association competition. He was going through that to get the competition license that can carry up to IMSA and beyond. Now, during Garrett's first day as a rookie in that school evaluation, in the first race he drove, the back of the pack up to third place. On day 2, he shocked the entire field, driving from last place to first in both races. Very cool. Again, applying what we're seeing here in the iRacing sim world to these real-world races, we are seeing it more and more and more, Blake.
It is really something to see that the principles carry over, and Garrett's somebody that, you know, he kind of dabbles in both, right? He's a Coke Series driver, but has really taken on to running some more road racing over the last couple of years, and great to see that crossover and how it's working out for him and so many others.
And that's exactly what you were talking about earlier. You know, before the broadcast started, you have that session to talk about how everything with driving is just coming into the real world and then the virtual world. It's really just inception on inception.
Yeah, and we're getting the new next generation of race car driver. Caden Honeycutt, a regular here, just got a full series
announced today
in the truck series next year, going full-time pro. It's we're hearing more and more of that behind the scenes, behind the wheel, on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. It just, to see it grow the way it has in the last 3 years has been really fun.
Now, we have to talk about another fun aspect that we get to do, because obviously we're not here, well, maybe next year, doing the driving, the hard work. Instead, we are here to look at it and just pull out some awards out of our hat. So it is time for our Countdown to Green Awards. This is where we're going to really let certain moments and drivers shine. The first one is the Gas Guzzler of the Year.
Well, the Gas Guzzler of the Year, again, we'll kind of think of it as a hard charger award. The driver that, as far as where they started in the field versus where they finished, who has gained the most positions this year. And we were just talking about him a couple of moments ago. Third place in that this year is that number 12 for FGR Excel of Garrett Maines. He's had a season where, again, it's kind of the middle to later portions of these races. You see a lot of these drivers who, again, sometimes it's because they struggle in qualifying, sometimes it's because they have great long run pace. They're able to do that. Second place is going to be somebody that is right over here on stage, and I think is kind of a good representation of his season. Was talking to him a little bit earlier and said, yeah, I kind of threw the first half of my season in a way, but again, stuck with it. Ended up winning this race that you can see right here at Pocono Raceway, but has been somebody that has had great race pace versus where he's qualified. And first, I believe this is not the first time he's won this award. He's done it a number of times in his eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series career. The 2311 driver of Michael Guest gained more positions than anybody, 163 to the plus. There's a lot of drivers that really wish they could say that in the stat category.
I mean, if you're going to bet on anyone to make up space, it's going to be Michael.
for sure.
That means you got to qualify better, right? Is that the takeaway?
I mean,
from
yeah,
this?
that's kind of the flip side of it.
Hey, whatever gets you an award.
Exactly.
All right, and look, we love looking at these cars, so that's why our next award coming up is for the Artist of the Year. We're going to give this to the artist who does an exceptional job, sometimes above and beyond with the number of schemes. Check this out from Letarte Esports. All of those schemes came from one artist. He is our Artist of the Year. You know him as Cosman. 25 paint schemes made for Letarte Esports this year. Kwame had 18 of them, one for each race, and these just are beautiful. Again, we were talking about real world applications too, and how iRacing and sim racing really factors in. These are beautiful artists and designers that can apply these to race cars. If you can apply it here in iRacing, you can apply it to the real world. Beautiful schemes, beautiful designs, much deserved for Cosman. I mean, just great stuff, and I'm glad they went with that approach. Every race, different scheme.
Again, Cosman, Ryan Williams, JD Laird, there's so many different great designers who are a part of making all of these schemes for this, and many of them have made the jump to the real world eventually.
I know they're beautiful. I couldn't pick one, but what I could do is I could make picks. Well, we could announce the paint schemes of the year. Yes, this is obviously the award for the coolest paint schemes of the season. I mean, while they all look beautiful, why not? Let's get to third place. This one is from Femi. This is, of course, from Michigan. And I love I think they're triangles. Like, I don't know that design there, but I like it.
Again, I'm glad that I'm not in charge of designing these schemes. To see all the different graphics and everything that they're somehow able to incorporate. Oxygen Esports did a great job at bringing out some great paint schemes all year long, Alan.
Oh, absolutely. And again, the way you can apply it, the way you can rep your brand, and I love the coloring of it, and it's the creativity that can really come out, because you want to be fast and everything, but if you want to, it doesn't add to any speed, but it's important to look good when you're going fast.
Well, let's get to the second place. This one also is from Femi. I mean, Femi. Femi is delivered right here from Darlington, throwing it back to Denny Hamlin.
Yeah, this one recognized right away, right?
Yeah.
It's got the FedEx lines, the old school Denny Hamlin look. I love a good throwback, and I love the interpretation of a throwback is also very cool. And you saw this, and you immediately thought Denny Hamlin on the Cup side. Very neat.
Yeah, I remember going to races and seeing this paint scheme. They had a couple of different ones, right, with FedEx, the different colors and everything. It was green for this one. But yeah, this was there are really a lot of good throwbacks that everybody tends to bring back every year, but this was definitely one of my favorites.
Well, it means the throwback cannot be first place. So let's look at first place. And again, this is from your man, Femi Ola Glusen. And this one, of course, is from Daytona. Really what it is highlighting Oxygen Esports, the esports sides of things, how the colors are popping, and how it's just showing that, esports is here to stay.
It is, and I got to say, whoever, I guess, loves paint schemes and votes on this stuff, they love some teal, purple. I think there's a couple of people in here that like teal and purple as well, but yeah, Femi Olot, again, just had some great paint schemes throughout the season.
Yeah, cool design, forward thinking. They won both throwback and forward thinking, so
there you go.
You're pretty good when you do both.
Well, I mean, yeah, like teal, purples, that's classic esports there. But let's get to the next award.
The next award is for the best burnout of the year. You're only doing a burnout if you are winning races, and that's what the best part, along with some money and some points and a chance at $100,000. But the highlight that you'll see forever is the burnout when you win a race. So let's go to our top three and unveil that. In third place, we had young Tucker Vinter. This is good because look, he's going backwards. He's got the kind of the reverse donut going on, but then he got this takes skill, Blake. The drift. You got to hold a pretty wheel. It's kind of skewed a little bit. He's keeping it on the bottom there at Nashville. You got the tire smoke, but to keep it right in that strip there on the bottom of Nashville Super Speedway, that takes some skill. The skill took it win the race, but also to do a beautiful burnout. So Tucker place, congratulations on second. Second place, this was early on in the season. Beautiful looking car. Keegan Leahy, look at this. He does the burnout, kind of uncontrolled through the infield, and then right to pit road. Now, does he go back on the track, Blake? No. he does a unique burnout down pit road of all places.
He lets everybody else know that he was the race winner as they're all pulling back to their pit stalls. Again, that's what the race director tells them to do. And I think this was a little bit of a flex as well because so many of these drivers were short on fuel at the end of this race. So I think the fact that he got to go out, celebrate, and kind of flex on everybody, hey, this is how much fuel I had left to try and get this job done too. So a great job there for Keegan Leahy.
And in first place, the best burnout of the year. This means you won a race, obviously, but then you also get the best burnout of the year. This was Dylan Duval. This was a long time coming. 8 years in between victories for Dylan. So take every second, make every effort. Take every effort to make, just look at how tight. This is what it's a good burnout when it's really, really tight. Little concentric circles that you see there. And then he does the long burnout. Take every second to enjoy it. When it goes 8 years in between wins, you got to do it.
Well, Dylan Duval ends up taking the burnout of the year. How about the Coca-Cola move of the race? We looked back at all of these races and we found a few of our favorites that we're going to look at as the Coca-Cola moves of the year. Because again, at the end of every single race, there's always one moment that sticks out. Let's take a look at our top 3 from this season. And I think number 3, and again, this is kind of the reason that, or part of the reason that he's here in the championship for tonight, Bobby Zielinski with this move on the outside of turn 2 at the Chicago street course. I think it was really a fight of Parker White, Bobby Zielinski, whoever gets out front, because they're both so good on road courses, was going to be able to win this race. And you can see Zielinski hangs on the outside through turn 6 at Chicago. That is not an easy thing to do. He gets the clean air, and eventually he goes on to win that race and transfer his way into another playoffs. But this is also, I think, one of the best ones of the season. Garrett Lowe versus Jimmy Mullins. And remember, these two drivers had a little bit of a history carrying over from a year ago, but you had Jimmy Mullins. He stayed out on older tires. Garrett Lowe elected to take 4, chasing Jimmy Mullins down the track or from the back, and goes into 3 and 4, gives him just enough of a tap, nothing dirty, but just bumps him out of the way, and then it's deadlocked to the line, and Garrett Lowe executed it perfectly, wins by just 1,000th of a second, and vaulted himself into another playoff bid. But our favorite of the year has to be this one from Malik Ray from his win earlier this year at Atlanta's Motor Speedway. As he's going into 1 and 2, you can see exactly how everything is sizing up. You think all the pack is falling apart behind him, not going to have enough help to get it done, but yet here he is making the move. He's going to back up to Derek Bordeaux. Again, this is why I think this was so impressive. He lets Colin Bowden go, who's also chasing his first win of the season, gets a well-timed push from Derek Bordeaux, times it perfectly. You think he's not going to have enough time, but just ekes it out to get it. What a move by Malik Ray, and our move of the year.
Celebration of the year, too. Malik Ray went nuts, though. It was awesome.
It was a crazy celebration, and honestly, even crazier because, like I said, we are here at the NASCAR Hall of Fame in person, so you never know who we're going to get at the desk. And we have a huge fan, maybe Parker White's #1 fan, Mom.
Absolutely.
Yay! Now, how does it feel to be here, to see your son make it to championship 4?
It feels unbelievable, very surreal. It's a dream come true.
Can you tell us about his journey when he first got into either racing or esports, or how you saw that grow and turn into a $100,000 opportunity? What's that journey been like?
The journey was he watched NASCAR when they raced their series on iRacing, and he said, I want to try that. So we hooked him up with a simple sim, and as soon as he sat in the seat, he was hooked. He's a natural. He's very calm, just stares straight through his monitor, doesn't get nervous. So
I mean, you're very calm. I mean, it's not often that we get the family up here, and I feel like that could be very nerve-wracking, but you're taking this very well. And we see Grandma's also here. Grandma is right here watching the whole broadcast, like from the start as well.
Yes.
How does it feel to be able to, not only show up for your son, but show up alongside other families that are here in support. I saw you tweeted out pictures of all the boys when they got here and were getting ready for the race. How does it feel to now interact with their families as well?
I know that the viewers can't see my arms, but my hair is standing straight up. I love most of the drivers.
Important
most of
distinction.
the drivers. The guys up on the stage tonight, every single one of them, I sincerely love. They have all been very good friends and mentors for Parker. So I'm rooting for everybody. I think it's just great that the 4 of them are on the stage, and it's not about winning for Parker, at least. It's just coming and having fun and being able to spend some time on the stage with a lot of guys that he looks up to.
I was about to say, just looking over these last couple of days, I know you guys have been down here for a couple of days. You've been able to travel, see some things. Just how has that whole experience been, being able to share that with Parker?
It's priceless. Parker's 18 now. He's a young man. He started college, so any time that I get to spend with him is, like I said, very priceless, very special. He's also an aviation geek, so we have been able to go plane spotting, and we went to the aviation museum, and it's been great to be able to spend some individual time with him.
A lot of people, or a lot of us, we only see the competitive side. I just talked to him. He's not nervous at all. I figured he would be. What's something we should know about your son that we probably don't?
Oh, boy.
Spill the tea. Tell us.
Yeah. I think...
He's over there. He won't hear you, even if it's embarrassing.
He's not going to hear me. Okay, all right. Parker, anything that he's ever tried, he's been good at. He's a natural. He puts everything into it, his whole heart, his whole soul, and of course his mind. He started flying when he was 12 years old, so he is a freshman now in college. His goal is to fly 737s for Delta. He's been saying that since he was 4 years old.
Wow.
So here we go.
Now, how was it when, he first told you about this journey with eNASCAR and the series? Did you imagine it to be as big as you are now seeing it?
Absolutely not. We came down 2 years ago for media weekend, and that was a dream. It feels surreal. It doesn't feel real because everything is just so amazing. What NASCAR does, what the teams do for the drivers, how the guys all work together, practice together. It's interesting to see all of the different relationships and different driving styles, and it's been a blast.
Have you been able to get your hand on or actually sit into a rig yourself and test it out?
I have not. I have sat in Parker's rig, but I don't think anybody has ever driven his rig.
Ooh, okay.
That's his.
We're
That's
watching him
it.
practice.
Might have to change that.
Yes. Yes.
But that's his moment, coming out of this. What is, regardless of results, what are you hoping Parker gets from this experience?
I think he's already gotten everything that I could hope for. He has worked really hard. He's been consistent. He's very respectful. And I don't think he ever dreamed that he would be here. So it's very special for Parker to be able to be involved in this sport and have it as, it's built a lot of character for him, and it's really built up his self-esteem. So he started during a really difficult time for our family, and it really helped carry him through and keep him grounded. So it has meant everything and more to our family.
If he wins 100,000, what does Mama want?
I want Parker to do what he wants to do. Yeah.
Maybe something for Grandma then.
Yeah, maybe for Grandma.
Oh, you're so sweet.
She nodded in agreement.
And
by
yeah,
the way.
yeah, she
Off
did.
camera.
She's like, of course for Grandma, of course for Grandma. But no, honestly, talking to you and hearing, and all the families, hearing the passion and the support system that are around our drivers, just honestly amazing. It really is like a tight-knit family that I'm seeing between all these families, and you know, it keeps growing year after year after year. One last thing, does Parker have like a good luck charm or a good, like a ritual before racing that we could just learn about so we know, you know, if he did it tonight?
I think I would be giving away his secret.
I tried. That's fair. That's fair. It's honestly been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much.
so much. It's been awesome meeting you guys.
Congrats.
This is a dream come true.
Oh.
Yay.
Congratulations to you and the fam. This is awesome.
Thank you so very much. And I'm good luck to all of the drivers tonight, including the ones that are at home on the track.
Oh, yes. They're a huge part of everything that this series is. It is important to acknowledge those drivers at home as well.
Yes.
And there you go. You see the man himself preparing.
There's Parker.
Oh, I don't know if we can hear you, but maybe you can. But a mother's love, right? I mean,
Absolutely, yes.
All right. Now with that, of course, we have the race ahead that these drivers are going to have to race in and have all of these environmental conditions. But first, they got to look to the track and what to expect. So for that, we have Steve Letarte back telling us a little bit more about the track.
It's time to take a look at the venue for the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series Championship, Homestead-Miami Speedway. One of my favorite mile-and-a-half tracks on the circuit, the low-gripped, high-banked Miami Speedway, is actually just south of Miami in Homestead, Florida. Opened back in 1995 and seen multiple configurations, its current configuration has progressive banking in the corners from 18 down around the apron, all the way up to 20 degrees, all the way up next to the wall. Both straightaways relatively flat, which means the transition in and out of the corner very difficult to get the car to handle correctly. Tire wear is a premium, so your car needs to be good not only on new tires, but it has to stay good on old tires as the race wears on. Now that's my take on the track. Now let's go for a ride with our 2019 Series champ, Zach Novak, as he tells us what it's like to race at Miami.
What's up, everybody? Zach Novak here, driver of the number 50 Charlie's Coca-Cola Zero Sugar Chevrolet. We're heading to Homestead tonight. I'm very, very excited to come back here. Always love this place for obvious reasons. So let me show you around. Typically, you'll see most guys trying to save their tires. They'll get all the way down on this very bottom. I missed it a little bit right there, but if you get way down on this bottom, there's a lot of grip. Or even on that middle seam helps maintain the tires a little bit as well. But basically anything down near this bottom line is going to be most important for saving your tires, especially a low straight exit here off turn 4. But you'll also see some guys getting up on the wall and trying to make up some quick and early spots. It's very viable here to use that outside wall to your advantage, but you just got to be very careful. It's like a cheese grater on your tires. Your tires will just completely go away very quickly if you're not careful. But you can put it right up on the fence and use a ton of throttle, way more than you would think. There's just so much grip up here, as there would be in the real life race. You'll see later this fall. There's just so much grip up by the wall, especially with that wall arrow helping you kind of rotate the car and at that same time not letting the car step out too much. I'm really looking forward to seeing the Championship 4 brawl and see who comes out on top. So thank you everybody for watching these this year. Really enjoyed doing them alongside Jonathan Delaney. And yeah, enjoy the race and thank you for a great season.
All right, so we see there what they have to expect from the track itself. I mean, this one's always like, I feel like it's close to home.
In a way.
Essentially, for a lot of people. This is always the track that I feel like stands out.
It really does. And again, it's hard to think of a track that's more fitting, I think, to settle a championship for that than Homestead-Miami Speedway. How this track's going to widen out. It gives these drivers a lot of options. And I know drivers love this racetrack, whether it's real world, whether it's the virtual world. Homestead's a great track to settle it at.
You said it. The love for it goes across platforms, right? Because it does. It gives drivers options. That makes for better racing times. The tires really matter, and people love running the wall, going down on the bottom. They love that aspect of it.
All right, well, with that, let's talk about some of the trends that we see from the championship. And to help us out with that, well, guess what? We have Letarte back.
Hey everyone, former crew chief and eNASCAR team owner Steve Letarte here. I'm a big fan of the numbers, so let me give you some of the trends for tonight's championship race. Well, the first trend, just how often have we seen Miami as the championship race? Well, this will be the 12th time the Coke Series decide the champion there. From 2011 all the way to 2020, that was the final event. And then it returned last year on the schedule, so this will make the 12th trip to Miami. The last 8 races at Homestead-Miami Speedway, 6 times a Championship 4 driver has gone to victory lane. Only 2 drivers has pulled it off from outside the playoffs. That was Donovan Strauss and Letarte Esport driver Chris Shearber. Qualifying is going to be very important in the race. When you look at the last 3 Homestead race winners, they all led the most laps, with the average starting position being around the 5th place. The championship structure is interesting. You don't have to win the race. The highest of the championship 4 will be the champion. The last 2 champions actually did not win the race, but they still hoisted the Dale Earnhardt Jr. Trophy. When you look at the numbers of the 4 championship 4 drivers, it's no surprise that only one of them have gone to victory lane at Miami. Why not? The dominant driver, Steven Wilson. He's been great in 2024. Will it continue in the championship race? Well, those are the championship trends. Now back to you guys at the NASCAR Hall of Fame.
All right, welcome back. Thanks, Steve, for that. Now, we talked to one mom. It only makes sense to talk to another mom who's on her mom era tour. Hello, welcome. Hello. It is so great to have, Steven Wilson's family just in the house. I feel like it's always just very infectious whenever you see the camera pan to them. How are you doing now? This is the 2nd time in a row. Steven Wilson, the 3rd. But I mean 2nd time here at the Hall of Fame, right? Where we're seeing, third.
All 3.
I keep forgetting that it's been 3
You guys,
years.
I hope you bought a condo in Uptown
I know,
Charlotte, because you're here every year in October.
Because I feel like it's just the repeat after repeat. It feels like we're just family now.
We'll talk to iRacing about that. That's a great idea.
iRacing, anyone here?
What is it like to be here again? I mean, another year, Steven Wilson proves to be one of the best, and your son does it again.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that he's proven himself to be one of the best. It's always fun to be here and have a large group of family with us. It's great to meet all the other families too, so we're having a good time.
Well, let's talk about your family, because the dedication to the series is insane. So Grandma Wilson has a scrapbook here that documents every race that Steven Wilson has gone through, from even winning trophies to when he was a kid. I don't know if you could see this, but it's truly amazing how much the documentation goes through. And that I saw her as well. This is another one here. I saw her writing in her notebook again, documenting tonight. What do you think this means to her? Because she was so shy. She didn't want to be on the screen. She didn't want to be on broadcast. But what did she say this means to her?
I'm going to say she has you fooled, because I would not describe her as shy. Obviously, she's very proud of Steven. She's very proud of her other grandsons as well. But this is a great thing that Steven's been able to do for himself, and we're really glad to be a part of it as his family. And yeah, she keeps track of him. Yeah.
And I'm telling you, there is so much detail in this. There are press release clippings, there are stats here from previous seasons. He has 316 points, 3 wins, 4 poles, 6 top 5. I mean, it just the level of detail in this is just absolutely tremendous. It's incredible to see again something documented like this that I'm sure he'll remember pretty much for the rest of his life.
I haven't seen that book, so I'm probably going to have to take a look at it too.
Well, at iRacing, we have Justin Melillo, who does a lot of the writing for eNASCAR the series, but also the stats doctor, as I like to say. I feel like Grandma Wilson, Justin, is coming for you, shot. Watch out, because these stats are clearly insane. What do you think is going through Steven's mind, just being here now the 3rd time? Do you think he's used to having the crowd, hearing the music, the atmosphere of it all, and is just focused on the race? Or do you think there's a little bit of nerve there?
I think he's very focused. I think there's a little bit of nerves. I think he'd have to say that if he was being honest. But being here for the 3rd time, he knows what to expect. He knows the noise level, and he knows people are watching him and taking pictures of him. But he's got it. He's got it figured out. Yeah.
Can you
he's confident.
Take us back to the beginning of all this, when the idea of sim racing or iRacing first came up in his life, and what mom's reaction was when you hear about something like this?
So I can't take any of the credit for that. That would be on Dad's side of things. So I was more the person who didn't quite understand how Steven was spending his time and why he wasn't getting his homework done at certain times. But
I remember that.
Yeah. I'd see the trophies, and I understood what it meant to him, and it was a great bonding experience for the two of them. So I'm glad they had that with each other. But yeah, it started a long time ago, as you can probably see in some of the documentation. So.
Now, seeing it grow from what it was to now how it is, how would you describe Steven's relationship with the other drivers? Because I feel like it really is a brotherhood with a lot of these drivers here.
Yeah, I was talking with Graham's dad, and I was telling him that I remember the one-sided conversation, because I could hear Steven's side, but obviously not Graham's side. But I heard a lot of yelling, and I heard a lot of woohooing, and then I would hear a lot of laughter. So those two kind of grew up in this together. But I think he's made so many really good friends through this, and even some he has never even met in person. But this venue is great for them to get together in person. So, yeah.
Well,
I just wanted to know how big of a Taylor Swift fan he is, because you are wearing a wonderful.
That was going to be my question.
I'm sorry, Blake.
Same page.
I think you got to see the back as well, but lots of pictures of Steven on there. So he's been to the concert. Yeah, I have not been in his apartment when he's listening to Taylor Swift. So I think it's running in the back of his head all the time, to be quite honest. So
that may be a request. You can walk over to that DJ that's over the stage over there, and just maybe give a request if he wins, maybe to
I think we did that last year. I think we got one.
2 years in a row.
Yeah.
Why not?
What would be the request for this year? What would be the T-Swift song?
Oh my goodness, you're asking someone who doesn't know the names of the songs. So we'll let him make that choice.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, if he does take it home, he should make the choice anyways. But honestly, it was a pleasure having you here to talk to you, as well as just having the whole family here. I know I'm rocking. You know what? I'm gonna talk more about that in just a bit when we get to a little bit something that we call picks later on. But it's honestly been a pleasure. You've been so nice to everyone here and to all the families that is out here supporting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, enjoy. Good luck.
Thanks.
Always cool to have the families.
Yeah, there you go. We have Steven Wilson, who has no idea we were just talking about him. No idea at all.
These drivers are so locked in, and we talked about it in the college series. I think he's still donning his Iowa game, his Iowa Hawkeye. He's wearing bright yellow tonight, representing everything, all the good stuff, from his family and his life. T-Swift, he's bringing it all together to really celebrate and elevate the night. I love that.
Yeah, I mean, it's great just seeing all the drivers here, seeing their family as well. But you know what's even better? When we got to talk about our picks here, because that's a little ongoing, a little teasing that happened. So let's talk about our picks. Blake, you go first. Who is your championship? Blake.
Well, first off, congratulations, Alan. Just heard, again, a second straight picks title. So,
Would you say I'm the Steven Wilson of making picks?
I wanted to not talk about it because
Haters going to hate, Steven Wilson would say.
But anyways, I'm going to stick with the driver that I had as soon as we came into the playoffs. I put him in my championship 4. I put him as the champion. I think he finally breaks through. He's been here so many times. I just think it's finally got to click tonight. Bobby Zielinski, that's who I'm picking to win the 2024 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series Championship.
That's a good pick, Alan.
Yeah, that's a good pick. Look, he's had so many opportunities. You hope to see him get one. But I don't think tonight. I think my champ is going to be the one we keep going with. Mr. Wilson, back to back, right? You got to go with it. Steven Wilson gets it done again. He's just been too good, too dominant all year. And he has a custom T-shirt? I mean, come on. Let's do this.
Well, you know what, Alan? Not only does he have a custom T-shirt, but he also has my pick and custom bracelets that I got from the Wilson family.
Oh, okay.
I'm choosing Steven Wilson as well. That is the name that we kept talking about throughout the series, as I said, and I feel like he may be able to do it. He may be able to come out a 2-time winner, and my bracelet tells it all right there. You see it. Wilson's going to win. But we have other picks as well. It's not just about us. We have Letarte here back to tell us all about his pick.
The decision is tough tonight. I think we have 4 amazing competitors, so I'm going to go emotional. I'm going to pick with my heart, a former Letarte Esport driver. Why not? I think it's the year Bobby Zielinski finally gets it done. The top of the podium, he lifts the Dale Earnhardt Jr. Trophy.
I like you, Steve. There you go. I knew I had somebody in my corner.
I mean, honestly, Bobby's a good pick.
Sorry,
too.
Trisha. I hope you're not mad.
I mean, all 4 of them are really great picks, but it's split evenly between the 4 of them.
But we have the fans.
Well, and that's the thing. We did put a post out on social media to have the fans vote, and, well, the results are in. Who picked who?
Drum roll. Oh, wow. There we
Bobby
go.
Z.
All right. Man.
Okay.
Underdog turned favorite here on Countdown to Green.
I mean, and that's what we like to see as well. A favorite and the storylines. That's what I think, what I like most about this year is the storylines that have built have really been like every show. It was just turning every race. You didn't know how it was going to go, and it's just been so great to see that alongside the fans, alongside you guys, the production, and yeah, I've enjoyed my time.
It has been a really great season, and can't wait to wrap it up here tonight. Again, the drivers are stepping away from their rigs. Qualifying's done. They finally get to walk out here in a couple minutes, and I think it really starts to sit in what's in front of them tonight for 100 laps, Alan.
Yeah, the countdown to green is almost over. This crew, we're going to call the race, but if this is our last countdown to green because you go pro, Blake, that's how good you are at what you do.
Maybe. Don't jinx it.
Maybe. But if it is, it's been a pleasure to work with you guys, and I can't wait to see what happens next year. I hope we don't work with you. That means you went pro.
There we go. Throw me off the set.
Well, with that, it's just been so great again being everyone here with everyone. We can't wait to enjoy the show because it is going to be a good race here as we crown the championship right here in the NASCAR Hall of Fame for the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series 2024. Be sure to stay tuned.
Every time you sit behind the wheel, you buckle up for the unexpected. You get ready to take on the competition and brace yourself for the chaos, the speed, the weather, the unknown. But above all, when strapping in, you put trust in yourself, your intuition. Make it your guide to win, your drive to win. He's a winner in this. And nothing is going to stop you from winning.
When you want to be the best, you can't settle for the rest. For anything on iRacing, there's just one name you need, Makoni.
We now provide the best of the best in setups, paint schemes, coaching, broadcasting, and event organization.
With cars across all 4 license classes, we have what you need to hit the track with confidence. Grab a subscription and save money while going fast at McConeySetupShop.com/subscriptions.
And remember, at McConey Setup Shop, there are setups, but your victories.
Good evening and welcome to the NASCAR Hall of Fame, the site of tonight's eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series Championship race. I want to take this opportunity before we get started tonight to give some updates on NASCAR's ongoing efforts to aid in support in past for Hurricane Helene. NASCAR and Charlotte Motor Speedway are hosting an all-day donation drive at CMS on Wednesday, October 2nd. Donations will be received by Wilkes County officials and transported to neighboring affected and counties in conjunction with Samaritan's Purse on Thursday. Talladega Superspeedway will collect donations at the track this upcoming race weekend. Martinsville Speedway will host a water drive at the racetrack on Friday afternoon. That's October 4th. Darlington Raceway is planning a Track Laps for Charity event on October 10th with proceeds supporting aid for affected families. For those interested in making a financial contribution, the NASCAR Foundation is accepting donations to support the American Red Cross in its disaster relief efforts. Donations can be made by visiting NASCARfoundation.org/Helene. That's /HELENE. Our thoughts and prayers are with all of those who are affected, and it's our goal tonight to provide you with a sense of normalcy as you join us for tonight's broadcast. Thanks for joining us, and we hope you enjoy the show.
White flag in the air. This race is official. 4 wide behind them. A great drive through the corner. They'll be side by side on the back straightaway.
Basically means everything to be here at the Hall of Fame. First time racing it with a live audience.
I think the underdog title does fit me. In my mind, I'm not an underdog.
Second time back here at the Hall of Fame. I'm just kind of more grateful to make it this time.
Knowing that a championship is in front of me is all I'm focused on. Same mindset as last year.
It doesn't matter to me that they have raced here. I'm just treating it as I've been here already. I'm not going to overthink it. I'm just going to go into it, think it's like all of our first times here, and I think I'll be good that way.
I'm not really big on pre-race routines or superstitions, but we'll see if that matters, if the second time back matters, if it'll make a difference and I'll actually get the job done.
I think they're all pretty good. We could wreck each other, to be honest. That's how close we are. But I think in all reality, whoever performs that night is going to win the 100K.
Steven Wilson will be a back-to-back champion on Tuesday night because he's going to go into Homestead, he's going to dominate, and he's going to own everyone because he has the most aura out of the board.
Graham Bolin wins his way to the playoffs. Parker White will fight for an eNASCAR championship. Bobby Zelensky goes back-to-back at the Chicago Street Course. Steven Wilson, winner at Texas Motor Speedway. The road to $500,000 ends with the crowning of a world champion here tonight. Hello from the NASCAR Hall of Fame in Charlotte, North Carolina, and welcome to the championship race of the 2024 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. Alongside myself, Evan Pasoko, joined by Blake McCandless, Alan Cavani. You guys have been getting us set throughout Countdown to Green. Qualifying's in the books, minutes away from dishing out $100,000 to our series champion.
Every single year that we have done this, there is a totally different but yet the same vibe. The pressure, the lights, everything that's going on here just builds a totally unique atmosphere that you can, I think you can even be a part of it as many times as you want. It's so hard to replicate every single time. It feels brand new to these drivers. And boy, does it gets me excited just being here.
Absolutely, because it's just so different than what we're used to in this competition, in this series. But Steven Wilson's been here so much, you wonder how much of an advantage that provides. Bobby Zelensky's been here before. You wonder how much of an advantage that is over Parker White, young Parker White, who's making it here for the first time. I talked to him earlier, didn't seem too phased, too rattled, but experience seems to win on this race.
He's the only driver who's never been in this setting before. Everybody has seemed pretty loose today, but they've been here for a long time. It's time to get ready for this one to get underway. So I think we're about ready to get this race started. To do so, let's toss things over towards the driver stage for driver intros.
Welcome to the championship round of the 2024 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series, live from the NASCAR Hall of Fame. These drivers battled all season long, survived the playoffs, and are just one race away from $100,000, the Dale Earnhardt Jr. Trophy, and becoming a NASCAR champion. It's time to meet your championship 4 drivers. 'Cause this is where I'm from. Driving the number 53 Chevrolet Camaro for Williams Esports. From Norridge Walk, Maine, the young gun trying to shock the world. It's Parker White. Driving the number 48 Toyota Camry for the Kansas City Pioneers. From Houston, Texas, trying to put the W in his name tonight, it's Graham Bolin. Driving the number 18 Toyota Camry for Joe Gibbs Racing. From Fresno, California, looking to finally win it all in 2024, it's Bobby Zelensky. Driving the number 10 Ford Mustang for M80. He is your 2023 and defending series champion. From Iowa City, Iowa, Like the fuse, it's Steven Wilson.
Well, it is officially drivers to your rigs time. We'll take an opportunity to step aside. When we come back, the most famous words in motorsports will get us kicked off. We're going racing at Homestead in just a moment.
Every time you sit behind the wheel, you buckle up for the unexpected. You get ready to take on the competition and brace yourself for the chaos, the speed, the weather, the unknown. But above all, when strapping in, you put trust in yourself, your intuition. Make it your guide to win, your drive to win.
He's a winner in this.
And nothing is going to stop you from winning.
When you want to be the best, you can't settle for the rest. For anything on iRacing, there's just one name you need, McConey.
We now provide the best of the best in setups, paint schemes, coaching, broadcasting, and event organization.
With cars across all 4 license classes, we have what you need to hit the track with confidence. Grab a subscription and save money while going fast at McConeySetupShop.com/subscriptions.
And remember, at McConey Setup Shop, there are setups, but your victories.
Drivers are on the grid and ready to go, so let's hand things off to tonight's Grand Marshal. It's NASCAR Cup Series driver and Team Dillon Esports owner, Austin Dillon. Well, let's go down trackside and take a look at your starting grid for tonight's Homestead 150 as the cars roll behind the virtual pace car. It'll be a tie for the fastest stop in qualified, but Vicente Salas gets pole. His Tony Cadan, number 11, will start from the front row, and he is joined by the defending series champion. It is the M80 number 10, is Steven Wilson, who starts tonight in second. Row number 2, we'll see the Williams Esports 53 car of Parker White in search of a first eNASCAR championship. He's joined by the VS Competition 89 machine of Garrett Lowe. Back on row number 3, inside the Joe Gibbs Racing 54 of Daniel Falkenham. To his outside, it's the Pioneers number 20 machine. That's Wyatt Tinsley. Row number 4, starting 7th on the grid tonight, the second of the Williams Esports cars. It's the 51 of Donovan Strauss. He's joined by the Spire Motorsports number 7 of Malik Gray. And to round out your top 10 qualifiers, inside of row 5, the Oxygen Esports number 5 is Zach Novak. He's next to the 2311 Racing 45 car of Michael Guest.
Back on row 6, you'll see somebody who won earlier this year and looking to keep inside the top 20. It's the Junior Motorsports number 88 of Briar LaPrade, and former series champ for William Byron Esports, Nick Ottinger, will start in the 12th position. Going from 13th, one of his best qualifying efforts of the year is Tyler Gary for eRacer, and Matthew Swack for Nitro Circus will start to his outside in the 14th position. Your Talladega winner and playoff competitor Dylan Duval for Nitro Circus as well starts directly behind his teammate with Letarte Esports' own Dylan Alt rolling off in the 16th position. For Team Dylan Esports, it's Taylor Hurst, the number 33, who will go from 17th. 18th will be the former series champ for M80 in Ryan Luza. Starting in 19th tonight for KHI, Kevin Harvick Incorporated, it's the 29 of Jimmy Mullis, and Jordy Lopez will round out your top 20 for BS Plus competition.
That takes us halfway home. Row number 11 will be the Front Row Motorsports number 38 car of Michael Fresh, driving in an eNASCAR Coke Series debut as a backup driver. Next to him is the Oxygen Esports 22 of Femi Olatunbosin. Row number 12, inside the William Byron Esports number 97 of Tucker Minter, and to the outside, the Kanan Esports 66 car of Colin Keister. Lucky row number 13, inside the Spire Motorsports 77 of Casey Kerwin, and it is Graham Bolin in the 48 car to the outside with some work to do as he eyes the title here tonight. Row number 14 will be the Junior Motorsports number 8 car, Caden Honeycutt. He's had a busy week, hopes to continue that here tonight, and it is the Pittsburgh Knights 55 machine of Ryan Doucette to his outside. And on row number 15, it is the RFK Racing 17 of Colin Bowden and the FGRXLA Racing 14 of Seth the Merchant. That brings us through P30.
Starting in 31st tonight, Kwame Scott for Letarte Esports. Next to your other Championship 4 competitor, Bobby Zielinski, has his work cut out for him tonight if he wants to finally win that elusive title for JGR. Rolling off from 33rd, it'll be the 12 of Garrett Maines, chronicled him on the pre-race show, as well as Keegan Leahy for 2311, the former series champ, starts tonight in 34th. Jonathan Delaney for Team Dylan Esports will go from 35th tonight. The 4-time champ, that's Ray Alfala, the number 69 for eRacer, will start tonight in 36th. Matt Busa for KHI will roll off 32nd. Cody Bias in the number 27. For the Pittsburgh Knights will go from 38th, and then a couple of drivers with grid penalties in this race. Michael Cozy Jr. and Timothy Holmes will make up your 40-car field.
So it's a look top to bottom at your starting grid. 2 of your Championship 4 competitors starting towards the front. 2 of your Championship 4 competitors with some work to do. Similar to some of the storylines we followed last year, there's a look at the families watching on. That is always one of the best parts of this live event, guys, is seeing the families here supporting their kids. And of course, this live event atmosphere is what is going to make this so exciting. Lights out on the pace car, 1 to go.
Going to be very exciting indeed. And again, I think for these drivers at this point, they're kind of locked into their rigs. They got their headsets on. I think for them, this is kind of procedure as normal. You can see the lights around, all the pomp and circumstances done. But for them, it's all about zeroing in on what they have as we look at our SimSeats race analysis. 100 laps here tonight at this 1.5-mile racetrack, 45 miles an hour down on pit road, of which you'll lose about 20 to 25 seconds or so in the course of a 4-tire pit stop. There are 3 tire sets available. Again, that's a big deal here at Homestead-Miami Speedway, so we'll watch that throughout the night for 100 laps. And that pit window, a little bit past halfway, but the drivers I talked to said, about 65, 66 laps is about how far they can make it on a tank of fuel.
And of course, the major storyline tonight is which of those 4 drivers will walk away with the championship. But don't forget, race win still on the line. The last 2 years we've done this live event, it was a non-playoff driver who actually won this race. Homestead, and of course at a different track a couple of years ago. Drivers fighting for relegation, drivers fighting for a championship. Tonight's going to have a little bit of all of it. And as always, we're happy that you're with us on the iRacing Esports Network. Pace car down and in with a championship on the line. Let's go racing at Homestead.
And they're not going to wait very long to try and battle for this championship. You can see Vicente Salas will kind of move into his own, but already a little bit of side-by-side action there between Steven Wilson and Parker White. Second on the track, but first in the battle for the championship. Right now they both ride right on that inside seam as they complete the opening lap.
5 nearly 6 wide mid-pack as they come off at turn number 4, and a couple of the championship cars middle of all of that. So far so good. Maybe not now. The 14 car sideways. Did he catch it? What a save in turn 1 as this thing stays green for the moment.
And that was right in front of Bobby Zielinski. You can see one car gets way beneath the apron further on back in the pack, but Zielinski very quickly tried to go up to the top. You could kind of see Graham Boland doing the same thing. I think it's not a bad strategy to employ it's tough when you're starting back. You have to get this track position as soon as possible, and I think you worry about saving all your tires and everything like that later.
On board look there with Taylor Hurst, who is one of the drivers with Team Dillon Esports. Jonathan Delaney, the other car in that camp. And Austin just got things kicked off with us with the command, and happy that you're joining us at the desk. Man, thanks for giving us your time. What's it like seeing you guys compete at this stage, of course, at the end of a really long, hard-fought season?
Well, this is awesome, and this is one of my favorite tracks, Homestead is. It's actually the track I have my best average finish on, so I love watching racing here. It's probably one of the best tracks we go to in NASCAR. And good seeing that X-Mark logo out front, one of our good partners at Team Dillon.
Well, what is it about this track? It goes cross-platform, real world, here in the sim. Everyone loves Homestead. Why is that?
I just think the ability to move around the racetrack. You know, you can find speed in different areas. You see the guys using seams to help the car turn, help the car rotate. You can get up right by the fence there and find a little grip late in a run. You can just slide around and have fun. It reminds me of dirt racing, really. It's about the only track that we have that's like that, and that progressive banking really does well.
You see the midfield here as that 3 car is in the thick of it. These races are pretty short, right? 100-lap sprint, essentially. If we go green, we'd likely only see one cycle of green flag pit service. So when you compare these races to the full-length stuff you guys do on Sundays, do you give your drivers any advice on what do you change characteristically behind the wheel when it's such a short sprint with really limited time to make up ground if you start slow?
Yeah, I heard you start off the show saying they can go 69 laps on a tank of fuel. Like, we wouldn't even think about going that far on a set of tires. You know, I mean, Homestead's one of those places where tire wear is an issue, and you gain so much speed with a new set of tires. And so these guys are going to be probably hanging on at the end of the run when the tires get worn out.
Being a team owner, being a part of this, seeing this grow, what's this like from your perspective? You know, growing up as you did on sim racing yourself, but now being a part of an event like this.
Yeah, I think you know, watching the guys that are coming into our sport. You know, William Byron is one that's unbelievable when it comes to iRacing, and then working with him on Monday morning when we go and we're trying to make our simulator at Chevrolet better. It's been a lot of fun. So you know, the Chevy sim is something I'm in constantly each week. It's the closest thing for me to compete on like this and to get real experience, and that's what we take to the racetracks, our setups from there. So working together as a group at Chevrolet is really important. The simulation that we bring each and every week, and we compare ourselves to iRacing stuff every now and then. You know, hey, iRacing really does a good job at this. Where can we make our sim better?
We've seen a lot of that. I think a lot of the topic of conversation you guys were talking with on Countdown to Green as well is how drivers within the sim world are finding niches in real-life motorsports, if it's sim drivers, if it's testing. And the series has been around for 15 years now. It's come a long way since Dale won the very first race. To see it how ingrained it is now, to your point, in real-life motorsports has not happened overnight, but it's certainly ramping up more and more these days.
It is, and then you got guys getting hired to go run the simulators for different teams, and you know, Anthony Alfredo does a great job for Chevrolet, putting a lot of laps in, and I know he's been involved with iRacing and different teams as well, and building those teams, so it's cool to see, and man, these guys are getting after it at the front.
And we got a battle for P2, which is the battle for the championship. Also, we'll let you get out of here, but we appreciate your time. Enjoy the show, and looking forward to what the Team Dillon guys can do for the rest of the race.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Coca-Cola is a great partner of the iRacing series, and glad to be here on behalf of the Coca-Cola Racing family.
And those Coke colors look good on those cars out there on the racetrack. Of course, reminder, if you're looking for where those Championship 4 cars are in the field, they'll be highlighted in red, not only on the race cars. You're looking for the windshield banners, the spoilers, the red roof numbers, but they're also going to be highlighted in red on that scoring bar top of your screen, and the current running spot for those top 4 pinned to the top of the screen all night long. So Steven Wilson, currently your championship points leader. He trails Vicente Salas, who's the race leader. Parker White is right there in third, guys, but Graham Boland up to the number 10 spot. That is a handful of positions gained, up 15. Graham is by far the biggest mover of those championship cars.
And, you know, I was talking to Graham earlier on in the week, and again, he kind of prepared for this race not necessarily by just running laps here. Of course, everybody, the qualifying and all those things, you learn this track as much as you can, but with the new dynamic track and the physics and everything that iRacing has brought in, Graham told me a couple days ago, the biggest thing I've done to prepare is just run official races. Again, the NASCAR schedule was at Kansas Speedway this last week, and trying to figure out how this track is going to change with all the updates and everything that continues to be improved and worked upon in iRacing. He said to him that was more important than necessarily just getting in and either trying to find speed in the setup or necessarily working on qualifying. So I think when you're put in a position like this where you have to gain all this track position, that's where that preparation, Alan, is so important.
Absolutely, and I'm thinking back last year, Steven Wilson was in this position for much of the race, sitting there in second. What we didn't see was much competition, especially early. This is the exact opposite of what he had last year in his championship run. To have second and third, both in the championship, Parker White on his bumper, this is different vibe than we saw last year in terms of the comfortability that he probably had earlier on in the race. This is a different Steven Wilson has to race right now if he wants to win this title.
And the 48 car continues on the move. That's down to the inside on Michael Guest. A battle for 8th on the racetrack. And the Bryce Chopper Toyota is through to that one as well. So Bolin making moves. Sits about a second and change off of the race leaders, but only 13 laps into this race. Nobody's really had a chance to spread out too much. There's a good look off the back of his car. Most of those cars in his rearview mirror, he's passed in the opening 10 laps of this race. Blake, you've also mentioned, we could see kind of two different races here at Homestead, right? Last year, clean and green up until the middle point, caution kind of right halfway, and it meant that everybody, at least for most of the race leaders, was relatively the same on pit strategy. You could also see a different race where you get a handful of yellows, those 3 tire sets come into play, but on a long green flag run, which you have to plan for early for Graham Bolin, is the 48 pushing too hard early, or is it simply that car is really good and underqualified to where it's race pacing?
Well, I think it's a little bit of both. Bolin has been somebody throughout the season that has always raced much better than where he's qualified. So I think to a degree, yes, he just has really good race pace. And again, when you're these Championship 4, the thousands of laps that these guys have put in just for this race alone, I think pays dividends there. As you can see, Bolin, he makes up another spot here. But I think there is a balance, right, that you start out with bad track position. You're kind of willing to take this risk, and if a caution does come out right now, you've just all of a sudden kind of flipped the script. And, kind of reminds me of what we saw out of Logan Clampett a couple of years ago at Texas. Started all the way in the back, came up and finished just shy of beating Keegan Leahy for that championship at Texas a couple of years ago.
And I wonder if the pressure from White behind Allen is going to be an influence here on Steven Wilson to make a move for the race lead, right? I think we always say you have to plan on winning this race to get the championship. But again, the last 2 times we've done this live event, P2 has been the benchmark for the championship 4 guys. But that buffer that Steven enjoyed last year for much of that race, non-existent. You can see he's starting to put the pressure on Vicente Salas.
So much of it's circumstantial, right? In terms of what you have to do and what you need to do and when you need to do it. Different race last year for Steven Wilson. Wasn't getting the pressure. Parker White on his bumper. You talked about tire wear. You talked about the handling of the car, how much you have to push, how much you want that track position, how much you want Vicente Salas to get out of the way right now. If you're Steven Wilson, knowing what's on your bumper, a different situation than what we saw last year. And we didn't, they have the 3 tire set. That didn't really come into play last year in this championship race. How that all factors in, especially with tire wear, the handling, how these cars affect that, and who goes away, who doesn't, that's what's going out right now.
Well, and I think that comes into play mostly if you're Bobby Zielinski right now. You're sitting P27. You're hoping that there's something that can try and perhaps shake up this race. As you can see, some of the other dignitaries that are enjoying this, including the man who has his name on the trophy that's sitting over there for one of these championship competitors.
It's always my favorite stat to pull out of the hat that you look back at this 15-year history of this series, and the first ever winner in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series was Dale Earnhardt Jr., and now his name is on the trophy. There's an onboard look with Bobby Zielinski kind of still in those mid-20s is where he rides right now. Runs right now, I should say, in 26th position. He's dropped maybe a handful, if any, maybe up 6, I think, currently. So Bobby also chipping away. Again, it's not a long race, so there does have to be some sense of urgency, but again, still shy of 1/5 of the way through. Bobby Zielinski has been the most perennial Championship 4 competitor that this series has ever seen. This is not only his 8th time in the playoffs, it is his 6th time in the Championship 4. He is very familiar to being into this position. Said earlier he felt grateful to be back in this Championship 4 after missing out on it for a year. And everybody always asks the question when we get down to this one, is it Bobby's year? He hosts a career best finish of 2nd in the standings that happened back when we did this for the very first time here in 2022.
The Denny Hamlin, if you will, right? For those who know the real world side of this, the Sunday Cup things, every year, is this your year? Bobby Zielinski makes it back once again to be in this Championship 4. How tough that must be every single year just to make it into the Championship 4, and then you earn that, and you get the question, is it your year? Bobby Zielinski, the qualifying effort, clearly not what he wanted. A lot of makeup work to do there, but we're seeing him try to pick off drivers one by one. But again, we talk about the tire wear, we talk about the options here on this track.
I see a lot of options.
Yeah, but are there enough for him and enough car speed for him to make it in time? Again, these short races you keep mentioning.
Everybody always refers to the progressive banking here at Homestead, Blake, and to your point, the iRacing drone was a good shot because there were cars bottom, there were cars high, and basically every half lane from there in between. Do you race the track differently depending on where you are on track, or are you simply chasing speed and what the better lane is, whether that's up front or in the back?
Well, again, I think the thing I've liked the most about how this dynamic track system has worked is that you can run where your car is best, whether that's low, whether that's in the middle, whether that's on the high side. And that's not necessarily the same for every single driver out there. You can see these front few right now, they're not having any pressure. Talk to these guys, it's the bottom lane that at least early on seems to be the preferred lane to try and save your tires, so you don't really see a ton of movement up front. But as soon as these drivers from further on back start to test out these lanes and kind of work them in, and I think there's a lot of spotters, there's a lot of crew chiefs in the ears, especially of these Championship 4, that I think will tell them exactly where everybody's moving. You can see Parker White dipping out to get a little bit of clean air, but also Graham Boland has been one of the best examples we've seen tonight of moving around the racetrack. I can't believe already we're 22 laps into this race with where he started. He's still in the same camera shot of those that are up front. He made up another spot while we were just talking there. He's up to 6, so he has been making some hay early on in this race.
The speed charts tell it all. We can see that the lap times for Graham Boland better than some of the leaders, better than Steven Wilson and Parker White at the moment. Some of that's the position on the racetrack, but Graham Boland certainly on his charge. This is no this is no anomaly here. The way he's charging up, he's making up for that bad qualifying run.
And we saw this last year from Nick Ottinger. Didn't have a great qualifying effort, but it was at about this point in the race he started to drop back. Graham Boland has not done that yet.
Well, continuing to lead this race from that number 1 spot is Vicente Salas. He has led from the jump after, I believe, his first pole position of the year. Of course, Vicente just missed out on making it to this round of the championship, was eliminated as the number 5 driver when we cut things down to 4 in the first round of the playoffs. So Vicente with things to prove. That is always also a point. Again, we've already mentioned the fact that we're not only fighting for the championship, we're also fighting for the relegation battle. There's a team championship on the line here as well. That'll be $15,000 to the highest team. And with Parker White and Donovan Strauss having a good start early, things looking good for the Williams Esports camp in that battle. So the ongoing fight for the race lead. Left of your screen, mid-pack battles on the right-hand side, but looking to the inside, Wilson knocking on the door. He's got a little bit of breathing room, just a bit over White, but that 53 car still within a car length and a half. I think Steven Wilson might be thinking P1 right here as we are now 1/4 distance through this home 10 finale.
I will say, though, if you're Wilson, you have to be calculated here. I don't want to say you're not racing that 11 car in front of you because he's on the racetrack, but it's all about that driver that's behind you. And you try to make a move right here, it doesn't work. That could open the door for Parker White to take the lead, get some track position. So you have to be calculated in how you make this move if you're Wilson. Again, I know you want to look out the windshield, but right now the race for this $100,000 is through your rear windshield.
And it's a tricky spot because if he sits there, maybe it opens up Parker White to make a move on him, Alan. If he goes to make a move for the race lead and it doesn't go well, it could also open up the door for Parker White. So Steven Wilson kind of facing that double pressure as that stuff continues to go on amongst the race leaders. Jumping back a little bit, the 12, the 25, we've been following the adventures here in the midfield of A lot of these cars who just cannot get away from each other as they run now. Lots of single file, but every time we head down the backstretch, there's at least 2-3 cars sticking out of line. There's an onboard look with Garrett Maines just behind the number 29 machine. You can see even here midfield, still a handful of drivers riding the fence. It's the SimSeats onboard camera there. Well, we always talk the virtual to reality pipeline, if you will, and Garrett Maines began his racing career in the SimSeats Spec E30 race car during NASA competition school. You can see the SimSeats rig in the bottom left window there. Of course, his real-life escapades as well. And again, just because we have the 4 championship drivers here, our other 36 competitors still racing at home in their normal sim rig, probably much more comfortably, I would suggest, than the 4 drivers that are here in a different environment, listening to us bleed through their headphones. He is at home where he normally is, and there's the contrast as our 4 drivers here at the NASCAR Hall of Fame on display to all of us, if you will.
And I think we talked about it pre-race. Garrett Maines, one of those drivers that's fighting, and it does have a shot to get inside the top 20. If he's able to do that, he doesn't have to worry about contenders. It looks like he just perhaps nicked the wall there through turns 3 and 4. No harm, no foul. But again, about 4 or 6 drivers right around that top 20 relegation line that have a shot to jump up. As you can still see, Wilson has not been able to make any progress trying to get around Vicente Salas just yet, but has pulled away about a car length or so from Parker White.
The patience of Parker White has impressed me so far early on, because right now it's all on Steven Wilson. The pressure is on him, right? Because he's better than Vicente Caution out on the racetrack, but the fact that Vicente Salas is still in the lead has to be angering is Mr. Wilson at the moment.
And that came at the perfect time for Graham Boland. He was just starting to fall off a little bit in terms of lap time, and he gets this caution at a perfect time.
It'll be optimal for him. We'll expect everybody to come down pit road. So first yellow of the night comes 30 laps in. We got, I think, just shy of halfway last year before we had the first caution flag. So we'll slow things down and then see what happens on the pit lane. One topic of conversation we had last year when Kevin joined us at the desk was how difficult the pit lane entry is here at Homestead. He said it's top 3 or top 5 for him. Well, the fact that we're going to do it under yellow takes a lot of that risk out, but Steve's point was it also takes a lot of the reward out as well. So some drivers who would maybe try to vary something in their strategy, say a Bobby Zelensky, is going to have a more difficult time separating himself, because, Blake, I expect as they come to pit road, we're looking at everybody likely doing the same thing.
4 tires and fuel, but remember that pit window that we talked about at the beginning of the broadcast, 65 laps, perhaps a little bit past that, is where this works out. So this kind of works right into that fuel window here, where guys, as soon as they get off of pit road here, they're going to be clutching, they're going to be saving fuel, and you can see nobody staying out because of the tires and the fuel.
We're throwing a few cautions, and we're talking about a full mileage race at the end. Maybe the gamblers come out and down in South Florida. Here's a replay of what brought out the caution. This was further back in the field as we were watching the action up front.
Look like 3 cars converging on one another, ran out of real estate. The 5 and the 29 go for a bit of a lazy spin. I think that certainly could have been a lot worse when that many cars stack up on corner exit, and it is rush hour on the pit road exit, and it looks like at timing and scoring, we'll wait to see the shot of the front of the field, but Steven Wilson and Parker White may be off pit road first and second, and I think Strauss may have fallen to P4. So if that comes to be, and I think it is, there you see it, Wilson off pit road first, White off second, Bolin off 9th, Zelensky 21. So that's almost wholesale pickups for all of them. But now our championship 4 leaders in Steven Wilson and Parker White, they're going to be the front row for this restart coming up. You see his mom likes that. It's the highest both Wilson and White have been all night, and they'll be right next to each other coming to the restart.
Well, again, these are 2 drivers that have worked together for such a long time, that work together in setups, trying to find speed in their race cars and everything. You just have to wonder how much of that goes out the window here. You're going to have 2 very good friends that are starting on the front row here. I doubt there's any heads up, hey, I'm going to go early, I'm going to go late here when they get to the Geico restart zone. But Graham Boland loses a couple spots. But you mentioned Bobby Zelensky picks up about 6 spots on pit road. Don't forget about that either.
That kind of doubled how many he had picked up over the course of the run. I think he was up 6 or so, and he kind of doubles that. I want to jump back to that point, Blake, you talk about Wilson and White. Well, both of them and Graham Boland, a technical alliance behind the scenes. Bobby Zelensky, the only driver not part of that same kind of setup and technical affiliated group. So we always talk about how much work goes in behind the scenes, collaborative effort. Do you think that changes at all when the three of them fighting against each other for a championship like this?
It didn't seem like it really changed how they approached this race. Again, I think there's a little bit of opportunity there when you're competitors and you're going against each other for all this money and all this prestige that's on the line, that it would kind of change your approach. But again, do what got you here in the first place. And I think for all of these drivers, three of which kind of work together with the technical alliance, I don't see there was any difference in collaboration in how they prepared for this race.
We're going to be 1/3 of the way through this race, and it is going to be Wilson control car on the bottom. Green flag back in the air. It's a good jump for the 10 machine. He'll clear for the race lead. White get a deal with the challenge to the inside. That's Daniel Falkenham trying to put up a fight for P2. Maybe White's going to be able to carry the speed through the corner, although Falkenham knows in front, trying to make it difficult for that number 2 spot, and White's going to get a push down the back straightaway.
Get the push from his teammate. I think you see the difference there in the respect gained with these Championship 4. I think this is generally another race you see Falkenham lay on the door of Parker White, but you can see they're trying to be respectful of these Championship competitors.
And while up front they're playing nice, midfield not the case. It is 3 wide just behind that 48 machine of Boland. Boland's trying to get it underneath that 77 car of Casey Kerwin. That would be a battle for 8th, but right up on the outside wall, you've got the likes of the 88 machine, Briar LaPrade and others. They're basically doing a full speed pace lap down the backstretch 2 by 2. And again, that 48 car continuing to try to pick through the field, working the inside line ahead of the number 97 machine. Boland now P9 at the moment. Going to be hard for him to carry that speed on the bottom of the corner though, but I think that's where that 48 likes to be right now.
I think just looking for a hole to where he can get back up and finally start to see where that 48 car would work. You can see still kind of side by side there with Casey Kerwin, still 2 and 3 wide in front and around him. In fact, he's a part of that, but you're exactly right. You just have to go, and hopefully you have a versatile race car where you can go to the bottom, you can go to the middle, you can go to the top side. It seems he's going to be able to clear 1 spot now. But seeing if Parker White can make up any ground. Steven Wilson, too, jumps up in that clean air. Imagine that's going to help that 10 car. He was very good running right behind Vicente Salas earlier, so imagine he gets some clean air here. He can maybe build up a decent advantage.
And that pressure we were talking about, that's flipped now. That Steven Wilson has the clean air, has the lead, doesn't have to worry about passing anyone, while Parker White was just sitting there waiting for the moves in front of him to happen. Now it's Parker White that has to make the magic happen in front of him because Steven Wilson is in control of this race. Graham Boland's still stuck on the bottom there. That's the risk reward of having these new tires, right? You have the ability to make these moves, but it costs you tire wear. But you have to do it now because the cars are right there in front of you. So we'll have to see how this all evens out as this run goes longer.
Encourage you to scan the QR code on the bottom of the screen there. Stay in the loop with all things eNASCAR. And, of course, we talk about what is on the line here tonight. Well, we say it's the road to $500,000, and that's true. But those are paid out over season winnings for drivers, for teams, for weekly race winnings, stages, you name it. Tonight, your champion will walk away with the Lions' share of $100,000. Now, I will say, those prizes for second, third, and fourth, they keep going up every single year.
Yeah.
$50,000 for second, $25,000 for third, and $20,000 for fourth. Tonight, maybe that's not going to feel so good for the drivers that get those 3 positions. I bet in a week's time, maybe a month, right, depending on how much time it'll take, those are going to feel a lot better. The fact that those are still some really incredible numbers for everybody else. But again, the only thing that all these drivers are focused on right now is that very top spot. And at 48 machine of Boland, P7 right now, I think that's the highest we've seen him all night. Zelensky, P17, also the highest he has been all night. So all 4 of our championship drivers trending in the upward direction.
Just wonder where Parker White's going to be able to go here. You could see, I was wondering as we got a little bit later into this run, will you see drivers run a little bit higher? But again, I think the reason we see so many drivers up front, the fact the top's coming in a little bit better, we mentioned fuel mileage being a part of things. That could certainly play into who wins this Dale Earnhardt Jr. Cup. whether it's Wilson, White, Bolin, and even if you're Bobby Zielinski right now, again, he made up a couple spots. He's up into 17th, so don't sleep on Bobby Z if he's able to make up a couple more spots. But when you talk about fuel mileage perhaps coming into play, Alan, I think if there's somebody who can, I don't want to say afford to take the risk, but really would have nothing to lose if he did, it might be Bobby Z.
When you're 17th, and if you believe and you know you don't have the speed to drive up there and pass Steven Wilson, I'm asking from a competitor standpoint, Blake, you know this. Why not start saving fuel right now? What if this goes green all the way to the end? Does the fuel savings start now? Can you flip the strategy already?
Well, he almost gets a little bit of help there in the middle of the corner from Michael Guest. Again, one of those drivers that is fighting right on the relegation cut line, but Zielinski able to make the way by. And again, I think if you are going to commit to that fuel strategy, it's something you have to do immediately. As soon as you're leaving pit road, you're shutting off, you're hitting the clutch, you're doing everything you need to do to try and save fuel, but it doesn't look like that's the case or on the agenda for Bobby Z. It's all about getting track position, and he's gotten a fair amount of it from his 32nd place starting spot.
Yeah, Bobby got a top 10 in this race 1 year ago. He finished 9th. In fact, all 4 of our championship drivers finished in the top 10. And there's a live look in at that relegation bubble. That 45 machine jumping up a spot. Michael Guest came into tonight 3 points below the cut line. Right now, he sits 1 position, or 1 point, I should say, above the cut line. Remember, only those top 20 drivers guaranteed a spot in this series next year. If you're in the bottom 20, you got to go deal with Blake in the Contender Series in the offseason to requalify back in. I say it every year. There are no 3-year, 5-year contracts at this level of iRacing championships. You have to requalify. People get relegated every single season, and that is why it is, I think, one of the toughest in the sports. And a big spin. There it goes. The 66 car sideways. No caution yet. The car's slow in the middle of the track. Now the caution flag will fly. And that was a big scare again. Exited turn number 2, where that incident is from.
And that's what we were talking about. You could see Keister was right around that relegation line, and this is going to put him in a very precarious position. And this puts all of these teams on stage right now in, I don't want to say an impossible scenario, but we've gone enough laps that if you take 4 tires, there's a lot of speed to gain. And if we go green to the end, that's the strategy. You don't have to worry about fuel. Your tires will be better, but you have 2 sets on pit road, and that's all you get. So this is where this race could really take a turn strategy-wise, depending on who comes down and gets tires and who maybe takes the risk to try and stay out here.
In just those 11 laps or so, the times fell off about a second. So new tires give you a second, but it only gives you 1 set of tires left. That's the strategy you're explaining, Blake. Not up to me. Not $100,000 isn't on the line for me.
And you only have about 15 seconds to figure it out because they're already heading to pit road, and it looks like most cars are going to take advantage of that.
Looking to see if anybody dove out of pit road. At least 1 car decided to stay out. We'll get a number on that one as the pit cycle looks like Salas, Duval, and Zawak, some of the names who stay out. Let's take a second look at this incident, though. It all started with that 66 car, Blake, that was coming off the exit of turn 2, same spot where we saw the last incident.
Again, just a disagreement over real estate. You could see that 1 car, I believe that was Tyler Gary, who was kind of coming down on the exit of the corner, and I'm sure Keister wasn't expecting that. And again, these next-gen cars, when you get a little bit out of shape, you lose the nose a little bit. We know how twitchy those cars can be in the real-world side, and iRacing kind of replicates that too, where it's really hard to save them on a straightaway.
Again, we almost got away with the yellow. It finally came out late. Another minor accident, and again, could be a critical one in terms of those drivers fighting for the relegation bubble. Well, it's not every chance you get to have somebody at the desk who has a trophy named after them, but the connections go far beyond that as we welcome Dale Earnhardt Jr. to the broadcast desk. And Dale, of course, you've won in this series. You've competed in it. You're a team owner with Junior Motorsports. This series now celebrating 15 years. Back when you won that Daytona race 15 years ago, do you think we'd be sitting here 3rd year straight at the NASCAR Hall of Fame?
Absolutely not. It's incredible how it's grown, and it's incredible that the drivers, they're under real pressure. And I was thinking about that on the drive over here. All those years we were racing at a desk or in a rig at home, talking to friends. Imagine having to uproot all of that, come here and have to race in front of a full crowd for $100,000. It's tremendous amount of pressure because, again, these drivers have done this in the comfort of their own home all year long, and now having to do it on that stage with all the distractions, us over here, all the fans here that are watching, it's going to be a lot of pressure for whoever pulls through. So never would have thought all those years ago that we would be doing this tonight.
You see right here, Caden Honeycutt, your driver right now. I think he was one of those cars that elected to play a little bit of strategy here. But about being an owner in this series, of course, you're a competitor for a long time. You've been an ambassador and just a sim racer on iRacing for a very long time. So continuing to see where this series has gone and the drivers you've had that have been competing really hard, that Brian LaPrade went out and got his first win earlier. How proud of you of the drivers that you've had this year and their progress this year?
It's been a lot of fun. Honeycutt, we raced with him in the Cars Tour, and I get to see him actually racing in the Truck Series and all that. And so it's been fun to partner with him this year. He called us and said, "Hey, I want to drive for you. Let's make this happen." And knowing the connection we have with him in the Cars Tour, that was a lot of fun to put that together. And it was also seen Briar to make it back, right? You work with guys like him. He's a professional, great representative for his sponsors. Just always did a great job, and we've had him over for fan day and signing autographs at the shop. So you make these relationships with these guys, and they kind of ebb and flow in and out of the series. And we were hoping that Briar would make it back so we could again partner up. So it's been a lot of fun. Had a lot of great drivers over the years. Michael Conti was the first driver that we got, and a champion in the series, and a professional on and off the track, I like to say. Got to work with Brad Davies, who was an OG from back in the day. One of the first people I raced with online.
Surprised his name isn't on that trophy over there.
Sure, yeah. And then, friends that were in it 20 years ago have now gotten back in it. Kevin King drove for us, I've talked to Kevin every week for the last 20 years. And so I just saw Derek Wood, Bob Bryant, Blackford. There's so many old school friends. The great thing about sim racing, and you're seeing the culmination of what this can be on the screen tonight, but the greatest thing about this is the relationships and friendships that it's created for me.
Well, what do you make of Caden Honeycutt just announced a full series truck deal for next year? I mean, the drivers, think of the 15 years of iRacing. Now these drivers are going and racing Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays. What do you make of that?
Well, they inspire to do that. Everyone you see right there on the screen wants to be racing in a car somewhere someday, and some already are. And so you love to kind of see the crossover. You'd love to see Honeycutt and these drivers complement iRacing and what a tool it is for them, and how it makes them better race car drivers. I believe that being in these type of races, in these official series online, do create better racecraft for the drivers that are actually racing in the real world.
We see the midfield is crazy off of the restart as expected. Remember, a handful of drivers stayed out. So Stephen Wilson and Parker White, they were first and second. Right now they sit 5th and 11th spot as they run.
That is tight 4 wide right there. That is a situation I would not want to be in. Graham Boland outside of all 4 of these championship competitors and nearly lost it right there. They got a shot from Wyatt Tinsley, his teammate for the Kansas City Pioneers. But Zielinski has made it up to 3rd in the battle for the title as well. And Parker White, can he clear traffic? This is when it gets so difficult on who can get through traffic and who has fresh tires, who doesn't. All that communication going through these drivers' minds right now.
What we've seen, Dale, in the Cup Series, drivers who are still actively in the playoffs have to deal with non-playoff cars on the racetrack as them at the same time, and the argument's often made, well, those guys don't have anything to lose. You should yield to the playoff 8, 6, whatever, down to the championship 4. But again, in this series, everybody still has something to fight for. If it's relegation, if it's the team championship. So it's harder if you see Graham Boland 3 wide in the middle of the pack to just say, get out of the way, because these guys are fighting to be in this series again. If you get relegated, there's no guarantee you ever get back to this level.
Yeah, there's so much on the line, and they're racing for their setup shops and their teammates and all of the friends that have helped them throughout the week to prepare the setup and spend hours and hours up late all night trying to run laps and figure out how to best prepare themselves for these events. So they're out there racing on an island as a driver, but you got a team behind you, wanting you to go out there and prove yourself. And they all believe, the funny thing about these guys is every one of them believe they're the best one at this. They think that they belong in Victory Circle and they belong as a champion of the series. Every one of them have that confidence.
Steven Wilson driving back up into the position to be the championship leader. This seems like a fun exercise for most people. Was it ever as stressful as this for you? I mean, wasn't this a fun exercise?
I got as nervous racing online as I did in the real world because I felt like that those drivers expected me to be good at it because I was driving a real car on Sundays. So, but I was always amazed at how impressive some of the sim racers could be and how fast they were. Racing against Blake and back in the day, Derek Wood and some of those guys, just the speed that they had and the ability to understand how to make the car fast. And I knew what I knew about the real world and could equate it to sim racing and be competitive, but some of the drivers just had something special, and that's what you see in every single car in the field here. These are the best drivers in the entire service racing on this racetrack tonight, and so each one of them, my hat goes off to every one of them because the hours they put into it and effort they put into it just to get to this moment.
Out of thousands that try to do it.
And of course, we had a point, I think, post-COVID 2020, 2021, where we saw a lot of drivers getting on that road to pro ladder through the qualifying series, through the contender series. We were seeing on average 8-9 rookies in the series a year, and we were talking earlier, only 4 this year. So I don't know if this series has reached a point where that talent level that can requalify or even go back down to the contender series one level below isn't leaving the door open that much because it is that close. And again, you do have the technical alliances, you do have the big groups that build setups together. That will differentiate things some, but there is no car out there that doesn't have as good of an engine as the other cars. So you take gaps that would be hundreds in the real world, even gaps that would be thousands in the real world, and cut them down to 10,000s. And it's not just these drivers too. I'm sure they've done tons of practice. Steven Wilson's been locked in for nearly a month. I'm sure he's had a lot of practice time, but there's test drivers, as we see his family on the screen, Dale, not only test drivers, but spotters, crew chiefs, really that whole army behind the scenes in the sim that you see in the real world as well, as Steven's trying to get back to the race lead.
Yeah, this is a great battle for the lead right here, and I think another thing that plays a role in that is the changeover to the next-gen car. There was a bit of a window of opportunity for this to be a level playing field for any member in the service, but now that we've had the next-gen car for a few years, drivers, the setup shops, and the community has sort of found how to make this car work and make it fast, and it's tough. Oh, look at that! That kind of contact right there, that can make it tough, and you just see. You worry about whether you get just a little bit of damage there in that car, and that can affect the handling or the speed of the car for the rest of the race.
And that Williams car that goes to the race lead, not Parker White, but it's Parker White's teammate. So as Donovan Strauss goes to the race lead, he has no incentive to make this easy on Steven Wilson. He and Parker are fighting for a team championship, but again, can you kind of make things difficult for Steven? Can you mess him up in your dirty air and give Parker an opportunity to get up there? Well, that battle goes on up front. Still some 3 wide in the midfield as we check back in with that 48 car there of Bolin in the number 9 spot. In fact, Zelensky up to P6. Biggest mover of your championship 4 off of the restart. Dale, this is one of your cars, and Brian LaPrade, the 88 machine. So we are seeing something that we did not see in this championship race last year. Last year we had the 1 yellow midway. Everybody was pretty much on the same strategy. It seems to be wide open with all 4 cars in the top 10 right now.
Yeah, the one great thing about this racetrack is just how wide it is. You see the cars using every bit of the racetrack from the bottom to the very top, and iRacing is such great service to be able to provide these drivers with a really racy track tonight. And so fun to see them have to move around and try to find speed.
Strategy calls. Was that on the driver or the crew chief? Who'd you punt to?
Well, in the old days, it was on the driver. But now these teams, they're so robust. There's spotters, there's crew chief. There's a lot of these guys have some kind of teams of individuals watching the strategies of others and kind of relaying that information, and everyone's sort of coming together to make a decision. But from what I'm learning over the years, the drivers, they focus on driving. They focus on being fast, how to make that car go as quick as it can and do the best job they can with the tires, and then the crew chiefs and the engineers and everybody in the background sort of understanding what's the best role to play with strategy in terms of fuel and tires.
And 4 wide right there is bottom of the racetrack, the 54 machine, the 20s up on the outside. So some teammates to some of our championship competitors right where things get messy. All of that is behind the number 17 car odd back. So this is all for 9th and 10th, and basically toss 8 cars under a blanket there. Of course, notably, Bolin is just ahead of this. That's critical for him. He gets up to P7. I had just mentioned Bobby Zelensky was up to the number 6 spot, guys. A couple laps later, he is up to the number 4 spot. Look at those numbers. He is up right now 28 positions in this race and has his set sight now on Wilson and White, who are just up the road. Championship cars running 2, 3, 4, and 7. It's the best position we've seen Bobby in yet.
And what a turnaround for Bobby Zelensky. Again, these guys go out, they qualify, and then they get introduced to the stage, and you can kind of see the body language in some of these guys as they walked up on stage. You know, Steven qualified second. He was pumped. He was ready to go, and you could tell Bobby Zelensky starting 32nd. There was a little bit missing there, I think. So just bound and determined here to get up to the front of the field, and he has the championship in his sights right now.
I think it helps him because he's been here before. He knows the pressure of this room. He knows those distractions that I talk about. So he knows, you know, when he does walk into this room, regardless of the starting position, he knows what he's going to have to face, where some of the other drivers may not. So I know we got a couple that have made it back to the finals here, but I think Bobby's experience of being on this big of a stage is going to help him tonight.
It is big. You mentioned these drivers are used to being at home in the comfort of their own sim rig, and they will try their best to replicate that here on the stage. Monitor setups, wheel, pedals, and all that, but you're kind of in a fishbowl here. Everybody's looking at you. You don't have that comfort of being in your car. I would imagine to an extent when you're driving the car in real world, once you get into your office and you're in the car, you can kind of lock in. There are less distractions. That's probably the same when these drivers are at home, but not here because, again, unfortunately for them, they're listening to us talk about them. If they can hear it, their families are here. They glance to their left. They can see their fellow competitors, which is completely abnormal. We did something like this earlier this year. We had a couple drivers out at the Navy Pier in Chicago. We've done this event, obviously, for 3 years now, and this is kind of the objective of doing these live events. As you see that live look at the bottom there, a couple of people jumping into the sim rigs that we have here at the Hall of Fame, getting people interested in this series. We talk about drivers going from the sim world to the real world. So much has happened over 15 years of this championship. Who knows what those kids in those rigs could be doing in 15 years from now as this series continues to progress.
That's dangerous if you're a parent letting them on there. They'll get hooked.
Gets expensive quick. But I think it's very smart for NASCAR and iRacing to partner and to understand where their younger demographic is. They're on iRacing. They're enjoying these simulations and playing on consoles. And so for them two to partner together is really a great opportunity to reach the younger demographic. And it's fun for guys like me. I mean, any of us that are hardcore sim racers, how often do you get to go and stand and watch 4 of the best in this series race, and we look at how they set up their rigs, we look at how they use their monitors, we look at some of the details that they prefer in their rigs and how they're going to compete tonight. And so I've got a lot of questions to ask a couple of these guys when they get done tonight on some of the preferences that they have and how they set their things up. So it's kind of fun. A little contact right there.
That's that 41 machine who was in a good spot earlier. You can learn a lot by looking at him. He's struggling as this continues on. He's dropping down through the midfield. Again, a handful of drivers had stayed out in this one. Well, Dale, we'll let you jump out of here. We appreciate your time at the desk. I know you've got trophy duty later on tonight, so we'll catch in with you just a little bit.
One more question. You have a little bit of pull in iRacing, right? Yeah. So I might be in this series next year. You think you get the 87 cars or something to run in this series?
You've got a lot going on. How are you going to have time? But the 87 cars are probably my favorite car on the service, but I'm biased to the nostalgia of it. But that's the great thing about iRacing. They got something for everybody.
I didn't think me and Alan were that bad to hang out with, but all week he's just been talking about, hopefully I'm not here at this desk next year.
We're pulling
20 feet over there. As soon as this
he's
series...
working with you guys. He's working with the Cars Tour. I mean, I don't know where he's got all the time to be racing.
And driving Contender now in the off-season. Yeah. So, once things wrap up here, of course, the bottom 20 in this championship will go race those top 20 from the qualifying series, and right back at it on Tuesdays. This World of eNASCAR, as we call it, is truly year-round, and Connor Juracek, a name to watch, who won that qualifying championship just a few weeks ago. It's going to be fun to watch that. We hope that you join us as that battle continues on. Checking it back in, though, with these cars up front. This looks very similar to what we saw early in this race. Steven Wilson second, Parker White sitting in third, and right now, race leader Donovan Strauss back to the top of the board, scooting away just a little bit from these two. Again, a little bit of deja vu for what we saw last year. Right now, the battle for the championship is the battle for P2. but it's been a long time. We've done this 4-driver championship format for a while now. It's been a while since I've seen all 4 of them running inside of the top 6 like they do right now, and a far cry from where things were 70 laps ago.
And even 10 laps ago. I mean, Graham Boland was outside the top 10 just a couple of laps ago.
But just the mindset. Think of how many laps of the 60 we've done that Parker White has been within a half a car length of $100,000, and not making a move, not overdriving it, not being over aggressive. Is he waiting? Does he have the car? Does he have the handling? How long can you wait? Just the patience that he is showing us in this first attempt at going after this $100,000. It's really showing itself right now.
And I know the stats are a little bit skewed because Parker White is only in his 2nd year in this series, but he does technically have the best average finish at Homestead amongst these drivers because he's only had 1 sample size. He finished 3rd here last year, but you look at guys like Steven Wilson in this next-gen era, so 2022 and 2023, his finishes at Homestead are 1st and 2nd. Now, his career average muddied up a little bit from some of the stuff late in the Gen 6 era, but in these cars, on this track, an average finish of 1.5. I mean, Steven Wilson is a tough enough competitor at any racetrack, but you give him what maybe is his best racetrack as this championship format, I think certainly plays into his benefit.
Imagine that daunting stat before the green flag flies. If you're Bobby Zielinski, if you're Parker White, if you're Graham Boland, having to beat one of the best at his best track. And look what Parker White's doing right now this whole time, just sticking right there on his bumper. Steven Wilson has never had this level of competition in the championship 4 in terms of having to deal with this the entire race.
This has been the representation of Parker White's entire season, I think. Didn't start quite with the speed that Steven Wilson had, but as he's gone through the year, he's learned, he's improved, he's gotten better. We heard his mother allude earlier, Tricia, about how much work he's put in to bettering himself and improving himself here on iRacing, and you could see it right here, sticking in a car length with Steven Wilson when there hasn't hardly been anybody that can do that all season long. He is right there. He might have nightmares about M80 tonight because he's just been behind that car for so long, but trying to size him up, learn as much as he can, because 27 laps to go. Again, about 30 laps or so is the amount of time that most of these drivers put in when they're testing the setup. They're trying to figure out if things work out. We only have that much to the end, 27 laps to go. So if you're going to figure something out, you got to do it quick because there is trouble on the back straightaway. Do they stay underneath the apron? It's Colin Keister again. I don't think that's going to draw a caution, and it does.
And once again, it changes once more. Inside of 30 laps to go, and another caution flag will hit the reset button and likely open another opportunity for all these drivers to come back down pit road again. Yellows in races where you have a handful of them have the opportunity to split up the championship 4, right? It can muddy the strategy. That has not been the case tonight. Every single restart has brought them closer and closer, and they were running 2, 3, 5, and 6 at the moment of the caution flag there. So it'll be really interesting, depending on what you've done with pit stops, Blake, maybe using the last set of tires you've got down there on pit road with 20-something to go?
I think all 4 of these drivers are close enough. They're going to do the same thing. I don't think anybody can afford to try an alternate strategy here.
Whereas if somebody was still in the 20s, this would have been an opportunity to go off strategy, but they're all so close right now.
For sure. And also there were a couple drivers that pit under the course of that green flag cycle. They were trapped a lap down, so they're going to take the waiver round on this pit stop.
It is a quiet pit road, or quiet front straightaway, I should say, as everybody is down and on the pit lane, and we wait to see what happens with the strategy as they cycle off of pit road. Donovan Strauss continues to lead this race. He's been up there for the majority of it. Let's take a second look, though, at what happened, and once again, it looks like it's probably going to be coming from turn number 2.
Again, we saw Colin Keister in this once again. That car on the high side, pretty much, I mean, the exact same scenario. And no, there was no contact. He just got a little bit loose, comes back up. Dylan Ault, Colin Bowden, a couple end up involved in this one. But a tough night for Keister as he was trying to get back into contention to stay above the relegation line.
Almost caught it, but ran out as they cycle back onto the racetrack. It looks like Strauss will maintain the race lead. Steven Wilson second, Parker White third, but Bobby Zielinski up to P4 in the running order. That is by far the highest we've seen out of the 18 machine tonight. It looks like Boland may be losing a touch onto pit road that time. He ends up in P7. Start of this race, P7 would have been plenty good enough to be the second highest runner of our championship 4. What a far cry as the running order will cycle through. And again, we'll wait for all of that to update, because you look at the top of the screen and now showing Bobby Zelensky in second as the leader of the championship 4.
Well, there's the how you differentiate yourself. 2 tires, I would imagine, for Bobby Zelensky to jump this track position, as well as several others. So I will say, if you're Bobby, I'm not feeling so bad about this. If you take 2 tires and you're the only one on that strategy, this would be a really nerve-wracking time. But you have enough cars, I think, as a buffer to where maybe you don't feel so bad here.
Yeah, so 9.7 seconds in the box for Zelensky. So he does go for a 2-tire stop. Couple other drivers, LaPrade, Hurst doing it in the back, but I think of those championship 4, Alan, it's just going to be Zelensky who goes for 2.
What a call, because this is the furthest Steven Wilson has been back all night. This is the most traffic he'll have to deal with throughout the night. He's been in first or second the entire race. Bobby Zelensky, with one good restart, gets clean air and about 22 laps to hold off the rest of the field. It's not like Steven Wilson's one position behind. There is a lot of track position and a lot of cars to deal with before Wilson will, in theory, get to Bobby Zelensky. It's all about this upcoming restart. They'll have the advantage with the 4 tires, but how much hay can Bobby Zelensky make on this, what could be the final restart? Could be a championship winning move right here.
It could. Tucker Minter is your current race leader. First time we've seen him in the number 1 spot so far tonight. Again, a handful of drivers going for the 2-tire stop. Basically everybody that's running in the top 6 right now decided to go for 2, and there's a couple more. So that's at least Minter, Zelensky, Tinsley, Kerwin, Salas, Falkenham. That's how the likes of Strauss, Wilson, and others end up back there in the midfield. And Blake, how would you assess the 2-tire decision? You just said before we were coming to pit road, hey, you're probably close enough. You don't need to go off strategy. Bobby Z rolling the dice.
We've seen it a number of times in this series in late race scenarios that 2 tires works. And I think, again, he has enough of a buffer to where maybe he can get this to work out. You can see Mrs. White right there talking to some folks, and I think this is where the stress starts to set in. Her son kind of going back and forth with Steven Wilson right there, leading their strategy. But then you have Zelensky on 2 tires, 23 laps too. Probably not long enough that these drivers are really having to save, so I think you're going to see a lot of pushing at this point now.
Going to be a critical restart. Zelensky, as the leader of the championship 4, will not be the control car for the restart. That will be the 97 of Minter on the bottom. Again, look for those drivers with those red windshield banners, Wilson and White, going to be side by side on row number 5. They're going to be on the charge. We'll see how good the 4 tires are. Green flag is back in the air. It's a good jump for the number 97 car. Already throwing blocks a couple of rows back, and safely P2 defended for the 18 car. Side by side, battle for 3rd and 4th. Tinsley, Kerwin going to go into big trouble towards the back. Boland in the 48 car seems to be involved. Did he get damage? Boland drives away, Blake, but surely he took a hit in that one as a quick caution at 22 to go.
I know we didn't see it on our screen, but again, this is one of the great things about being live is I could look on Parker's rig from our vantage point over here and see that he and Steven made it through without any issue. But again, this was the risk that we were talking about and why I really like this 2-tire call from Bobby Zelensky. As you could see the White family watching on nervously to see how this one will play out. Again, I think you just look back at how this season has played out. How many times we get a caution within the last 25 laps that they seem to kind of work in cycles that they continue to happen after that. So I'm always an advocate for trying to get your track position. And this makes this 2-tire call better for Bobby Zelensky. You go through more heat cycles, it's going to even out 2 versus 4 tires as well.
Yet every time we get a caution flag, you're taking 3-4 laps of green flag racing off the table there. That also means that he has less laps at speed, that he's going to have to hold off cars that have better tires than him. So this kind of ride the cautions, get the track position, could be a legitimate strategy for Zelensky to try to wrap this one up as he rides in the number 2 spot. Looking at time and scoring, Bolin still shown in 14th spot, so it doesn't look like that car is down pit road this time by. Again, we'll wait until we get a second look at the incident to kind of assess how bad we think the damage on the number 48 machine is. But again, really any setback, Blake, this late with 20 laps to go, not what you're looking for.
No, absolutely not. And it looks like Bolin was able to kind of slide through there without a ton of damage. I think at this point you kind of have what you have, right? So you're going to stay out, but I don't think he got tagged too poorly here. But the biggest loss, aside from the track position, perhaps a little bit of damage, is just the fact that the laps continue to wind down. And again, there's so much that these drivers through the field are fighting for, to stay in the top 20, to try and win the team championship, which, for some contracts will work with team bonuses in a way. So again, these drivers fighting for money, fighting for prestige, all of those things.
Over $500,000 on the line for this series in total. That is signing bonuses, driver championship, race winnings, team championship, and more. So we always like to say that while the racing is virtual, the consequences are real, and they are getting very real as we are inside of 20 laps to go in this Homestead finale. Again, Bobby Zelensky still your leader of your championship cars. He is in the number 2 spot and was able to defend that relatively easily off of the last restart. I will say, like, both Steven Wilson and Parker White into the green, they both made up a couple of spots. That last lap, they will leapfrog from 9th and 10th to 7th and 8th respectively. So even though it was such a short run, half a lap if that, they were already able to pick up 2 spots.
Yeah, and I think you could see it out of that shot of Steven Wilson right there, sitting in a pretty good position. Again, this is where I think those two strategies are really going to clash if we can go green from here. But I think Zelensky right now, you can see him sitting there, I think a little more calm and collected than what he was at the very start of this race, and just how the tables have completely turned in this one on the outlook of his night. Again, I'm sure you qualify 32nd. That is just that's got to be tough, but here he is with a shot to perhaps win a championship in this one.
So it's going to come down to a couple of late race restarts. We haven't seen, Blake, this kind of restart drama and exciting restarts for a championship race in a while. Again, a lot of these have played out with green flag racing, a little bit of pit strategy here and there. It is kind of hard to pre-plan this. I mean, you know it. You've raced at the top level of iRacing in these championships. You've tried your best to prepare yourself for this. You've kind of put yourself in the boat that you're in strategy-wise. And all you can do is execute now. We talked about the army behind these drivers and everybody that's helping you out. Your spotter, your crew chief, everybody that's helping you build the setup and test it. None of that matters now. It just comes to flying by the seat of your pants and making it happen.
And again, you're driving for those people right now, those that are in the stands. Again, I was walking around with some of these drivers practicing on the stage earlier today, and there's 12, 15 people in some cases in their Discord channels. We talk about this being a team, and I know we say that, these guys have spotters, these guys have crew chiefs, and people really wonder, is that really the case in iRacing? It's 100% the case. There are specific builders that love building setups, just like you would see mechanics in the real world. They love building setups here on iRacing. People who are competitors, spotters, all those people are behind so many of these folks, and I know Bobby has his whole group that he's behind. There's several of those drivers that are in this field tonight, as well as the other 3 that he's competing against that are all linked in some form or fashion. But 17 laps to go when we take the green.
Every
100 grand.
Every time from here on out, we're going to be saying, is it the final restart of this season and the final restart to determine a champion? A pace car off and in. Still, control car Minter. Green flag in the air. It's a good jump again. The Donnie 7 on the money. He'll clear for the race lead. Zelensky also defending P2. That's big. He has to go down and shut the door on Kerwin.
Bolin jumped up 4 wide on that initial restart. He wanted the outside as soon as he could get there to try to make up as many spots as possible. It's been tough to try and make those moves on the bottom and in the middle, but you could see Steven Wilson, Parker White, as they have been all night, locked nose to tail. Zelensky, however, looks like that he may be just in front of them, just a couple of cars as he tries to hold on. I thought, again, that was Zelensky there for just a moment, with Steven Wilson trying to get by his teammate, who I'm sure won't make the job any easier to try and catch his other JGR teammate.
Yeah, you would think that 54 are going to want to be in the middle of the way as much as possible. Wilson able to get by, White not able to get by. So those two drivers separated for the first time post-restart here. The 10 now has a clear advantage, but a caution flag again comes towards the rear, and we will slow things down once more. Now coming to 15 laps to go. We talk about if this goes green, Blake, if you get a lot of stop-start with the restart, what works better for Zelensky? It seems like that might have been good timing because Wilson had cracked his way to P4, but again, the downside is now when you get to the restart, he's going to be lined up directly behind you.
I was about to say, with that 2-tire call, it was looking like 4 tires definitely had a bigger advantage than I think Zelensky would have liked to have seen. But again, gets a caution when he needs it, but also there's a little bit of comfort knowing that it's going to be in the rearview mirror. Again, there's no choose cone on iRacing, so all those cars on odd positions will be on the inside, the even numbers will be on the top side. And if you're Zelensky, it's a lot easier to block that car behind you if you're on the outside lane. You can pretty much mirror exactly where he goes. So if you are Zelensky, or actually it looks like Wilson may line up behind Tinsley. Again, they go back to the timing line, so it looks like Wilson kind of shoveled back to 5th position.
That could be big. That one spot could make a difference.
Yeah,
P4 versus 5 on the restart.
For sure. I think, especially with the track widening out like it has, you definitely would rather be on the top for these restarts as we get one more look at how this one transpired. Dylan Duvall and Keegan Leahy, a little bit of contact further back in the field.
Yeah, not the first time Duvall's been in a sticky spot, and you see that 66 machine up and into the outside wall. That is not the way that I think things would have hoped to go tonight for that camp, but it has been a bit of a rough one, I'll say, for those drivers that involved. And again, aside from Bolin, who we think got a little bit of damage in the yellow prior to this one, he's still running 11, so it doesn't seem like that damage has taken Bolin out of it. So for the most part, Blake, these incidents seem to have not involved Championship 4 cars. And we all know the risk when 36 of them, so the vast majority, aren't fighting for a title. There's always a chance that a championship driver gets sucked up into somebody else's mess. For the most part tonight, those accidents have not affected what's happening with these Championship 4.
It doesn't look like it, as you can see some of the team owners here for the Kansas City Pioneers watching on. I think got to be happy with not only the drive that Graham Bolin has had, but look at his teammate Wyatt Tinsley, a couple spots up, running in the 4th position right now. And you look at this top 10, again, so many Championship 4 competitors of this year and past years that are all involved in this one. How about Tucker Minter, right now your race leader? He was a part of our Championship 4 at this race a year ago. Casey Kerwin, he knows what it's like to lift the Dale Earnhardt Jr. Cup right here in this building as well. Of course, we have Steven Wilson back, Donovan Strauss, who won this race last year. So something about this time of year, perhaps this racetrack, we see a lot of familiar faces up at the front of the field.
That shot there, by the way, I think was our first good look at the front end of Bolin's car after he was involved in the yellow prior to this. Blake, what would you make of the damage on the nose of that car?
It's definitely a little bit, and if you're Graham Bolin, it's probably going to make some bit of difference. He was able to make up, I think, a spot or two on that restart. But again, at this point, 13 laps to go. You can't afford to let that affect you. Although I can't remember which race it was this year that there was somebody who won with pretty much that exact type of damage. I think it may have actually was Briar LaPrade in Michigan, had a little bit of nose damage. It didn't seem to affect him all too much. So if you're a Graham Bolin fan, that's what you're hoping for, that damage isn't going to affect him all that much.
And as he sits in P11, he is close enough that if things get wacky, he's in striking distance. That's all you ask for at this point. Still, all 4 of these drivers have a legitimate chance of walking away as a champion. And we're kind of in an unprecedented streak of competitiveness in this series, and much of it is thanks to the dominant era of Ray Alfala that went on for so long. But we have had 5 straight seasons of first-time champions. That has not happened at any other point in series history. Of course, Zelensky, despite the fact that he's one of the most veteran drivers, basically leads amongst these 4 in all the major stat categories, hasn't had a win yet, would like to become the 6th different first-time champion we've seen consecutively. Wilson looking to become the only driver not named Ray Alfala to be a 2-time champ. I find that fascinating that over 15 years, only one driver has ever been able to be a multi-time champion.
And it really only took him, 1 or 2 years to really get his feet underneath him. Had his rookie campaign. Second year, he was already here in the Championship 4 and has been back here every year since. And again, we talk about parity with this next-gen car, this format that, of course, you have to win to be in position to make these playoffs with only 10 spots on the line. And yet with all of that, all that chaos, if you want to call it that, Wilson is still in a position to win a championship. So I think that just goes to show you the type of years he's putting together, and not only what it's going to mean for the rest of tonight, but the years down the road. How many?
Yeah. So our championship cars, Zelensky on the outside of the front row in second, Wilson inside of row 3 in 5th, White inside of the next row, he's 7th, Bolin in P11. 11 laps to go from the Homestead-Miami Speedway. Green flag, and we are back off and away. Good start outside line, probably the most competitive jump we've seen out of Bobby Zelensky on the restart so far, but the inside going to be better, getting up to speed. Look for that 10 car of Wilson now, knock it on the door. Wilson to the number 4 spot.
Wilson kind of trapped there on the bottom. Can he bring Parker White along with him as he's going to look 3 wide, and that is with the lead for the championship. Zelensky rides up the racetrack and tries to go all the way to the top. Casey Kerwin hanging on the door of Steven Wilson. Side by side, they're almost 3 wide for second place in the title off of turn 4.
Zelensky carries the speed topside. He'll defend for the moment. Wilson gets hung up in the 3 wide battle. Now he'll clear the 77 of Kerwin, get through to 3rd. Next on deck, trying to fight through. Parker White looking for a way by, but here comes Steven Wilson to the inside of Bobby Zelensky. Side by side, second on the racetrack, first spot in the championship. Who's going to be able to hang on?
And Zelensky, if he can move up here in front of Wyatt Tinsley, it'll keep him a little more competitive off of 4, but Wilson is going to clear. Zelensky goes low. Wilson will try to block. Zelensky will try to fight back to the high side, and does he dip back low to try and stop the charge from Parker White as well?
Parker White is there. He enters the conversation 4th in line as Steven Wilson is now clear for the lead in this eNASCAR championship. There's a spinner behind. Big trouble in the midfield. Caution flag again inside of 10 laps to go. That could be big for Williams in the team championship as Strauss appears to be one of the drivers involved. But it took 3 cracks at a restart, but Steven Wilson is now back in the catbird seat in this Drivers' Championship.
Again, so much pressure coming with these late race restarts. Zelensky's feeling it on those 2 tires, but also Wilson put in a position that I think is going to be a little bit difficult. Again, that second spot, you're on the outside of that car on the inside. You have to let the leader launch first through the restart zone. So if Zelensky can time it well, he maybe goes in side by side, but it seems Wilson right now too strong with those 4 tires. But also, what does Parker White learn? He'll start directly behind Steven Wilson. As long as he can just get out of his lane, I think he's got a real shot at it.
It has been a year of Steven Wilson. He's not only a defending series champion in this, he won a college series championship as well. He leads his fellow Champ 4 competitors in all the major stat categories this year. 4 race wins, that's the most. 10 top 5s, that's the most. 13 top 10s, that is the most. So we talk about this format, Blake, and how it has some similarities and differences to what you see in the NASCAR Cup Series playoffs, where we'll take a field of 40, cut them down to 10, and do a straight elimination to these championship 4. So yes, there is that randomness, there is that unpredictability of this format, but the numbers would suggest Steven Wilson in the 10 car has had the best season of these drivers, and these championship 4 have been the most deserving. Let's take a look at the 48 machine of Bolin. He was right there, and in fact, that 51 car around off the nose of his machine, the big impacts are behind. I don't think that's going to hurt the 48 car, but the 48 machine right where that incident kicked off.
Yeah, and I think that that's just self-preservation at that point. Again, I don't think Bolin did anything wrong, but I think when you're put in that position, you're tight 3 wide like that, eventually at some point I think you have to know what's on the line for you, and if that involves, once that car is around off the nose in front of you, so be it. Donovan Strauss will be around this series for a very long time to come. So Graham Bolin, I think, just knows what's at stake, and the fact that he has to make up these spots very, very quickly if he wants a shot. Again, second, third, and fourth all in front of him battling for this.
We talk about the interesting scenario that your race leader's in Tucker Minter. You had mentioned he was in this championship 4 with us here, competing last year. Looking to, again, it's so strange. You look back on the history of this championship 4 format, and by far and large, the average has been that the championship winner has had to win the race. But for whatever reason, it has been second place, has been the clinching spot every single time we have been here at the NASCAR Hall of Fame. And I think certainly the way this race has looked, again, Tucker Minter didn't start in the race lead, but he's found himself in a really good spot. It certainly seems like Steven Wilson's going to be more concerned about the car behind him than he would be out of the car that's out the front windshield. That doesn't necessarily mean Minter's going to stroll to a race win here, but to your point earlier, when we talked about is it worth it, he may have to make a decision here. Is he going to be defensive for P2 or offensive for P1? And I mentioned that spin for Strauss could really hurt Williams in the team championship. They are now only 2 points ahead of Joe Gibbs Racing for that team title. That team championship is a $15,000 prize.
Yeah, so, and again, a lot of these drivers, some of their incentives tied to this team championship, so I'm sure Zielinski and even Falkingham, who again can afford to make up a couple of spots here. You can see he's running in 6th at the moment. So I know talking to Daniel Falkingham a couple weeks ago, this was a big focus for them, was to try and win this team championship. But again, we talk about the technical alliances and all these drivers that are lined up. Tucker Minter is one of those drivers that throughout the season, who does he work with? Bobby Zielinski right now, who is running in that 3rd position. So Minter right now in control of this restart, and I think I would not be shocked to see Zielinski get a great jump if there's a little bit of communication. Basically, we don't have the hands out the window like they do in real life, but I can imagine that sort of thing may come into factor here that may give Zielinski a shot into turn 1.
And you take a live look in at the relegation bubble as well. Again, that equally is important because only the top 20 drivers will be locked into this next year. Right now, the 88 machine of Briar LaPrade, the last driver in by a 6-point interval, that does currently have the number 45 machine of Guest on the outside looking in. Guest had been in at points over the course of this race. He's not having a bad night. Michael Guest is going to be restarting back on row number 7, so it's not a bad place to be in. Again, that could also flip here in the final laps. All right, Blake, this time by, I think the families are feeling it. It's getting real. This time by, 4 laps to go with a championship on the line. Of course, Zielinski made the 2-tire decision to get the track position. That's now gone. He'll be on row 2. Parker White to the outside, going to be lined up right behind Steven Wilson. Both of those cars took 4 tires the last time they were down pit road. Pace car will yield to Tucker Minter to bring us back to the green flag. But what happens with the championship 4 behind them? Green flag back in the air. It's a good jump for Bobby Z down the inside line. He'll get ahead of Steven Wilson to take away P2.
I was about to say, these drivers have run thousands of races on iRacing in their life. This is down to just 4 laps. Wilson with a better run off of turn 2. Here he goes to the inside. Zielinski playing blocker. He'll go low. He'll go to the high side. And now as Wilson looks low, Zielinski will ride right on the seam, but Wilson just too strong. They'll be side by side off of turn 4 for the lead and $100,000 for the championship.
Wilson made this pass once before. He probably didn't think he had to do it again. Bolin gets around White. That's for 3rd in the championship. But in the inside, it turns 1 and 2 on the inside. Bobby Zielinski will drop to 3rd, and Steven Wilson takes back P2, back to the championship lead, coming to 2 laps to go. Caution flag will fly, and the eNASCAR championship will require overtime. And I think a lot of people feel the same way as those folks sitting in the front row. That's the Steven Wilson contingent in their Wilson era. The Pioneers folks are liking it because Bolin did real good off of that last restart. I think White gets back in front of him, but I think we're back to all 4 championship cars inside of the top 6. And I'll be honest, I wasn't expecting the good restart for Zielinski, but you talked about him and Minter working together, got back ahead of him and put Wilson in the difficult position of needing to make a championship winning pass a second time. He's done it twice tonight. He may have to do it again still.
Well, I was about to say, with the fact that this is going to set up for overtime, if the exact same communication is going on between the 97 and the 18 car, look at what Zielinski was able to do. Again, being on the outside of these restarts since iRacing, again, continuing to update the restart zone is not brand new, but within the last year and a half, 2 years or so, iRacing implemented it. it's obviously a great jump for the leaders, but it seems to be at the detriment of the second place car. So third, if they can time it right, can have the lead of that second car going into turn one. This is further back. DeMerchant is on the relegation line, some 3 wide going on further back in the field. And once again, I think a couple of the same drivers that we've talked about, unfortunately being in some incidents before, are wrapped up in this one off of turn number 2. And we'll, again, I think with what we've seen this season, I don't think it's any surprise that perhaps the win for this race and this championship would come down to how you can execute on a late race restart.
Live looking at the team championship standings, the Williams advantage has doubled. It doesn't mean a ton, though. It's only a 4-point advantage and a tie now for third in the team championship with M80 and William Byron Esports, both 20 points off of that top position. Again, that team championship payout is not just exclusive to the drivers, or the team, I should say, that will take home the team championship. There is money involved for the top 5 finishers in that team championship. So it looks like Spire currently in that number 5 spot right now. And again, Blake, at this point, so late in the race, drivers are locked into the strategy call that they made. We haven't seen anybody come down pit road these last 4 or 5 opportunities.
Well, again, I just love the contrast, right? You look at all these drivers, and for the most part, they're kind of sitting, settled in. They're cool, calm, collected. It's the fans, it's the friends. They're the ones who are in the really stressful situation. I think you ask any race car driver that eventually steps out from behind the wheel, what's worse? What's more stressful, watching and either cheering for somebody or owning a car or something, or being in it? It's definitely by far watching what's going on. These guys, again, they've done this so many times, but to think of the hundreds of races these drivers have run, whether it's officials, leagues, all that they've been involved on iRacing through their entire careers, I can't imagine what their heart rate is right now, how pressure-packed this is. Again, the difference between first and second is $50,000 in how this one settles out. So I can't imagine what that feeling is for those drivers who are on stage right now.
There's another good look at the environment that we're in. This Championship 4 finale live at the NASCAR Hall of Fame here in Charlotte. There is a look at the Dale Earnhardt Jr. Cup, which stands to the victor and the victor only, who will add their name and be the 15th champion in the series history of this championship, which has been going on for some time now. And again, I think the best part as well of this live event is, yes, it does add a lot of nerves, but a lot of those celebrations and those moments of joy that are often not able for us, Blake, to see unless we catch them on the webcam at home will play out in front of us. We talk through eNASCAR overtime procedures. So as many as 3 attempts to finish this race under green. When we come to the green flag, it'll be 2 laps to go. If we get all the way around 1 lap to get to the white flag, then this race would be official. However, Blake, if we don't get to the white flag, we would re-rack it and try again. Again, a maximum of 3 opportunities. We've seen this a lot this season.
We have, and I think that's why having all this experience going into this situation is so important. I wouldn't write off those guys. I know we're kind of talking a lot about Wilson and Zielinski right now. I would not write off Parker White, Graham Bolin at all. All it takes is one little skirmish between those two. They have a little bit of a run, and they're right in the mix of things. So those drivers who are further on back looking for different lanes to try and make those moves. And, golly, the nerves are high for me. I can't imagine what it is for them.
That helpless feeling, no control over it, and it's all in those drivers' hands. Alan Cavana's left us here at the desk. He's also going to be on trophy duty, so he has made his way over to the Cup, and we could be just moments away from crowning our champion here in 2024. Again, to reset it for you, you're looking for those drivers highlighted in red. Yes, Steven Wilson has the track position advantage, but Bobby Zielinski get behind a car that he has a technical alliance with. That's Tucker Minter, who's the control car. Who wins the drag race to turn number 1? It's attempt number 1 at overtime. Green flag in the air. Zielinski pulls alongside. Does he clear Wilson? There's Tucker into turn number 1. They get together. Wilson stays on the outside. Bobby Zielinski trying, but he's still unable to get clear. Now for a moment he's got him off at turn 2.
Now he is, but Steven Wilson has Parker White just behind him as Zielinski has to go wherever Steven Wilson does. Wilson's going to shoot it down to the bottom. Here comes Zielinski looking for the race lead. Wilson's going to dive it down to the bottom. 3 wide for the lead in the championship. And here comes Parker White. Does he make it 4 wide as they come to the line? 3 wide. 1 lap to go. Here comes Parker White to make it 4.
4 wide. wide for the race lead and 3 wide for the championship. Wilson throws it in. He'll wash up the hill though. Steven Wilson overdrives in 1 and 2. Parker White has gone to the race lead down the back straightaway. Bobby Zelensky, old tires, one last opportunity. There's contact in turn 3. Parker White goes up the hill. Parker White is into the outside wall. Zelensky spins behind, and Parker White is a first-time eNASCAR World Champion in 2024.
Can you believe what we just saw?
There were 3 different championship leaders at 3 different moments on that final lap of this race.
He won it, Mama!
The streak continues. Parker White is the 2024 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series champion, is the 6th consecutive first-time winner, and may likely secure the team championship for Williams Esports as well. What a night in Dade County for that group. This winning moment is brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official fan refreshment of eNASCAR. And I know it's a cliche, Blake, but have you ever 4 wide to the stripe?
No, I'd never.
And that's probably, we'll check the numbers, is that 1 lead lap on the night for Parker White?
I believe that is the case, and his mom cannot believe it. The crowd was going crazy in here,
jumping up and down,
and just for Parker White to hang on again. Zelensky with the contact. We talk about all the time. What are you willing to do to try and win a championship? And we saw what Zelensky was going to go in there and do. Tried to move Parker White out of the way. He sustains the hit. He keeps it on the wall. Wilson's not able to keep up. And Parker White, who again was sitting watching on television when this series was on TV and said, I want to do that one day. Now he is an eNASCAR champion, and this is how he did it.
Let's walk through these final 2 laps, Blake, in their entirety. Of course, Zelensky makes the move early on Wilson. I didn't think he was going to clear him at this point. Once Bobby was getting back into the gas off the corner, I thought Wilson was going to be able to clear him. He gets by him off of turn number 2 here, but then again, you knew the speed was coming. Big block as they head down into turn number 3, and then watch that 53 in this sequence from the exit at turn 4 to turn 1, how he sneaks up on this 3-wide battle for the race lead.
And again, so tough for these drivers. You could see Minter trying to kind of just let these guys settle it. 3 wide. Parker sends it down to the bottom, 4 wide. And I thought right here, again, White is not in a great spot. Wilson, I think, made the right move. He just went a little too far. Gets into the outside wall, makes him 3 wide off of the corner. He gets a little bit of contact there from Minter as he's trying to get off the wall. And then right here, Zelensky, we talk about it all the time. What would you do to try and win a championship? He hits him square, doesn't spin him out. White gets up, uses the fence, and then Zelensky going up to try and side draft, just a wrong tap, and unfortunately doesn't work out for him.
And in the end, it is the 53 car of Parker White, the sophomore, all the major stat categories. It wasn't pointing his way, and I did mention that his average finish here at Homestead was a little bit skewed because he had only started here 1 time. Well, he improves that average finish to a 2. So just as good as Steven Wilson has been here at Homestead, Parker White has been as well. And again, you talk about the road to get to this championship for that man right there. One of those newer faces that has burst onto the scene. One of the most successful drivers in this series. He has done it, and I think, Alan, we'll toss things over to you guys as both you and Dale are standing by to present our newest eNASCAR World Champ with some hardware.
What a race. Our man Dale Earnhardt Jr. giving some friendly advice about how to take this all in. Let me ask you first, Dale, what a finish. What'd you think of that?
Man, Parker did a great job, but he's racing the greatest sim racers in the service on iRacing right now. And that was intense. All those guys put it on the line, and he was in a good spot, made some good moves and good choices to take care of himself in those final few corners and was able to pull it out. But a great effort by Bobby and the rest of the drivers. They gave it all they had tonight. This guy is sweating. He's soaking wet. I mean, they really are up there. Some of it's nerves, but some of it's a little bit of work. They're up there working their guts out. So good job, man.
Well, I hope he has the strength. Let's present the trophy. Parker White, the Dale Earnhardt Jr. Championship Trophy goes to the champion for 2024, your eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series champion, Parker White.
Well, we'll continue hearing from our championship winner. We'll talk to some of the other drivers as well here in the championship for Blake. I think a lot of the conversation we had as well coming into this was how unique of an environment this is. And everybody kept saying 3 of our 4 championship 4 guys have been here at the Hall of Fame live event, except for Parker White. And I think we can now dispel maybe that myth that it was going to be a difference maker, because he was in the conversation all night. It was around Steven all night and had quite literally one opportunity that he had all race to take it, and he executed it perfectly. Let's go back over to the championship interview.
I don't know what else I'm going to do.
Parker White's flying high right now. Your 2024 eNASCAR iRacing Coca-Cola Series champion.
Any race win, 2 in a row, by the way. Yeah, it talked about the walk-off for Parker White. We talk about how maybe this series has become the most competitive it's ever been. How it's difficult for new drivers to get in. And you got a guy like Parker White who made his series debut as a rookie just last season, now here on the championship stage, and had to race against the most dominant cars of the last 3-4 years.
Yeah, it's really impressive. And again, I think you could see this coming. His trajectory reminds me so much of what we saw out of Steven Wilson just a couple of years ago. Comes onto the scene, has a top 10 run in his rookie campaign, is really solid. You can start to see the growing signs of a very mature and very fast driver, and I think you see that all play out. Never let the pressure get to him. The fact that he pretty much spent the entire night behind Steven Wilson, maybe a car length or 2 or so, and had the championship in his grasp all night long. Never let that deter him. Didn't let any of the strategy, any of those late race cautions shake him, executed on pit road, hit the right strategy when he needed to, and then when the time was right to finally make the winning move, he went for it and ends up going out. And by the way, took a heck of a shot there from Bobby Zielinski as he was trying to hold on and win this championship.
Square to the bumper, I think fair game, given the context.
I'd say so.
Let's take a look at your race results. Again, the win for Parker White is enough to capture him the championship, and Steven Wilson will come home in second. Graham Bolin as well, I think, finishing the highest that he had been running at any point in this race, ends up in third. We'll try to talk with all of those drivers in just a little bit. Wyatt Tinsley brings home a back-to-back running there for the Pioneers, 3-4. Great showing for that group. And Tucker Minter, who I think Blake not necessarily forfeits this, but tried to get out of the way and play as nice as he could, will end up, I'll say, settling for a P5 given the circumstances there. Falkenham in P6, that's going to be great for the JGR group. Maybe not enough to overtake Williams in the team championship, but certainly I think good enough for them to lock up that number 2 spot. Lowe, Salas, Ray, and Zawak, the top 10. Notably missing on that was Zelensky, who was in that spin eventually off of turn 4.
Yeah, again, just tough deal there, but some solid top 10s here to end the year for a couple of those guys. Garrett Lowe, Vicente, again, Malik Jake Ray, who, again, got his first win earlier this year. Matthew Zwack, I'll give him a shout-out. He was my Road to Pro spotter, so he did a good job. He got a top 10 here tonight to end his 2024 Coke Series season. So good there for him as we complete looking at your top 10 drivers. But still the celebration going on here, and I think still kind of a sense of disbelief here, I think, with many of these drivers and these fans who, again, had some ones that were happy and some that aren't so right now.
Here's a look at 11 through 20. So Zelensky ends up 14th in the running order. That, I think, can also, Blake, come to a trade-off of what's worth it, right? We mentioned there's big money still available for second, third, and fourth. Bobby basically going for the full commit there to go for that championship. May have ended up giving up P2 or 3 in the championship with that attempt.
For sure, and want to give a shout-out to Michael Frisch. You saw him there in 15th Series debut.
Yeah.
We've seen a couple of drivers who debut very well at this juncture, and a couple of drivers back here who were hoping for some more points to stay above that relegation line. I know DeMerchant, LaPrade, will be really close to see how all that shakes out at the end of the night.
Yeah, but Afuco, when he made his fill-in start, got a 12th, Mercurio an 18th, so top 20s for all of our fill-in drivers. They're taken from that pool of the highest non-qualifying contender drivers. I think goes to show you how competitive that level is, that they can jump in and to be competitive. Those drivers are simply not just not racing because they didn't make the series, right? They're active, so gives them an opportunity to jump in. Speaking of jumping in, let's jump in and chat with the man who was very close to defending his championship from here last year, Stephen Wilson. So we appreciate you joining us here at the desk.
Yep.
Just kind of tell us about this one. We kind of knew that you would be good going into this. The favorite for many and at least for much of this race had been in control.
Yeah, it was really good. We started up front, hit the Q lap. That was a good start, and then we just had control. We had good speed. Parker was right behind me that whole race, though, man. I have to give props to him. He was great all week in testing. He's just been lights out the whole year, matching me and making me work harder. So I'm seeing here Graham got third, so that's top 3 for the North Force, 3 out of the 4 guys who were here. So that's good for us, and it's good as a team, setup team, that we can bring that speed and get those finishes.
Looking at the end of this race, I know a lot of those late race restarts. How difficult was it to try and maintain and hold your track position up there?
Yeah, Tucker and Bobby worked together, so they were lined up on the bottom, giving kind of countdowns probably, kind of telling Bobby when to go, so that was making it harder for me, and I just didn't execute those last 2, really. I mean, if I could have rolled into it a little better, timed it, probably would have won the race, but I gave it my all, and then we just kind of missed turn 2 there, and Parker got us 4 wide into 1, which was crazy. So it was a lot of fun to be a part of that, and hopefully everyone watching had fun too.
We saw Bobby go for the 2-tire stop. That gave him the track position late and kind of flipped things for almost the whole race. You were playing from a position of power, and he was chasing. Was there any thought when you guys came down pit road to mix it up, or was the fact that you guys were so strong for all of this race made the decision to go for the 4 and kind of stick to your guns?
Yeah, I mean, knowing we were really strong was good. I mean, we could make up spots almost anywhere on the racetrack, any line, and then just at the end there, I think if I took 2 and had the lead, it probably would have been better off for me. Probably could have won the championship here tonight, but it is what it is. It was a lot of fun still, and then it's just how the racing was. Me and Bobby were racing hard, and then Parker came in there at the end, so it was just a lot of fun.
I know you've been dominant the last 2 years. Is that still your plan moving forward, going forward? You've said a lot going into this race about how well you've run in the past. What does the future look like for Stephen Wilson?
Yeah, of course. We're going to come back next year and just hope to be just as strong. We've got good momentum. It's still a second place tonight. It's still $50,000. It's no trophy. It's no 2-time, but we'll be back for that next year, and I'm sure that if we bring this speed, I'm confident myself to be able to come back here again.
What was different about this experience this year, having done it before? Were there less jitters? Was there more confidence? I mean, having returned to this stage as a defending champ is one thing, but also without the question marks that surround this live event, which you had to deal with before.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I was very nervous before the race. The nerves are going, the excitement, the adrenaline. If that's not going, then I don't even know why I'm here. So, I was for sure nervous going into the race and just executed the qualifying lap. That takes a lot off, knowing I started second up there with Parker, not having to work through the field, which obviously Graham and Bobby were able to do anyway. But also, really fun racetrack tonight. We were able to move all the lanes, so that was a lot of fun. And good to see Graham going up. I got 23 spots up in front of me here looking at. So it's good that passing was available on the racetrack tonight, and it led to that 4-wide finish.
All right. Again, I know you would have wanted one spot better in the championship, but nevertheless, still a dominant force in eNASCAR now, and I know for years to come. I know you have a lot to be proud of tonight, albeit a little bit short. But
sir,
good run, Steven.
Thank
and been back here a number of times. Every year we've done it, you've been back here. Wouldn't be shocked at the same in 2025.
Yes, sir.
Well, we appreciate your time again. Congratulations on a strong run, and we'll see you next time out if trends continue in your favor. That's Stephen Wilson, of course. Blake, he doesn't have to go down to the Contender Series, so we'll see him in the likes of the College Series, I'm sure, and some other things, as he is competitive in many different aspects. But again, even though it's not the championship, is on one of the more dominant runs we've seen in kind of modern-day eNASCAR.
Well, again, look at who won the most races, and even we saw from the stat book that his grandmother gave us earlier today, his top fives and everything, where he's run, and I think regardless of the situation, regardless of the track type, he's the one to beat. He's the one that everybody's looking at. He doesn't gather the championship tonight, but I think, again, that's going to be a staying force for years to come.
We're now joined by Bobby Zelensky, who was one of the drivers who had a good look at that front spot on the final lap of this race. Bobby, I know 6-time in the championship before we talk about dynasties and eras and continue to be one of the most consistent drivers year in and year out. Nobody has been better in the playoff era than you of advancing through the rounds. Most of this night was from behind the 8 ball. Just kind of walk us through that, kind of crunch through the field from the 30s to the very front row at the end.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what went wrong in qualifying. I think we just didn't do as good as the others with setup. And I just had no grip, and I just had a bad lap. I don't really feel like I messed up too much. It was just a bad lap. I was like, all right, we got to try some stuff. So we tried some stuff, and I honestly thought it was the best strategy possible. It was still obviously really hard to keep those, hold those guys off at the end, but I did everything. I was trying to turn chicken crap into chicken salad because I can't cuss. But that's what I was doing, and I had a friend, like I had a guy I worked with, Tucker, up there that was at least giving me, a little bit of help because Steven and Parker had some friends up there too. And, there's some moves I kind of did wrong. I kind of sent it on Tucker to defend from Steven, and that was bad. Like, it just kind of ended up bad for me. But I guess it gave me a shot in the last corner to totally destroy the cleanest driver in the series, which at this point, I don't care, man. He drove me clean at Chicago. He could put me in the wall, and he didn't. But I was putting him in the wall tonight. So yeah, good for him. I'm here to win, and I did everything I could.
I know you've been here multiple years. How does this experience this year? I know you said pre-race that you seemed as if you were really grateful to have this experience after not being here a year ago. And just kind of, how was that experience for you today versus these previous years?
It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed myself a lot more. I think after I qualified last, I was in a bad mood. But I was still focused. I was like, all right, what do we do? And we were lucky to have cautions go our way where I could try something. And, I was lucky that the other guys didn't follow me on 2 tires because they just gave me a shot, And, yeah, I think if I don't wreck there at the end trying to punt Parker out of the way, we might still get second or third. But, yeah, different rig. Everything is fine about the rig. I was up to speed. But those little instances where you're, instinctually saving, I just overcorrected after I ran into him there. So I wish I would have been skilled enough to not do that. Maybe I would have came around second or third and had a little bit more money. But honestly, I don't really care too much because I was here to win championship finally, and we haven't done it yet. We're going to keep on trying.
We continue to make playoff appearance after playoff appearance, championship appearance after championship appearance. And I'll ask, because you mentioned that being in the rig, and we kind of speculate too, right? You guys try to do your best to replicate what you're doing at home, but I think there's 2 parts of it. One is the rig itself, right? Is literally the wheel, the pedals, the monitors, the feel. The second part of it is you're here in front of a live audience. You don't really have your safety net or your cocoon of your rig where you're used to being comfortable. So how would you balance those two, the physical setup and then just the environment as some of those different factors that play into racing here on the stage?
I think when we're practicing, getting closer to the race, you start getting really used to it. And I didn't think it really affected me at all. I don't want to sound like I'm complaining. It was just that one moment of me saving the car, not that I would have probably wrecked it at home too, to be honest. I think SimSeats did a good job helping me out. I was up to speed. There's no excuses. I felt fine. Crowd doesn't matter. I was having fun with it. I don't think it would have made a difference if I was at home or not. So, still, that was fun. happy to be on Joe Gibbs Racing with Interstate Batteries, VRS. Like, I keep getting them to the show. Keep getting them here 6 times now, and we're going to keep trying to make it over and over.
All right.
Well, we appreciate your time. Again, I know it can only mean so much in this moment. We've had this conversation before, but congratulations on another really strong year. I think in retrospect, there's 36 other drivers that would have loved to lost it in turn 4, right? There's going to be 20 drivers. A certain percentage of them won't be back here next year with the relegation. And we know that when you come back in 2025, you'll be competitive. So we appreciate the time, and we'll see you next season.
For sure.
So Bobby Zelensky, who was in the conversation, Blake, for much of this night as the driver on the offensive coming from the rear. And in the end, all you can ask for is to have a shot, and he did.
Well, and I think, again, I don't want to say it takes pressure off because, again, you want to have good track position to start, but the path forward is pretty clear once that happens to you, that you have to try to do something different. You have to run different lanes. You have to try different strategy and all those things. And we saw how that played out. And I think as far as executing a night, he did a fantastic job. And even with what he tried to do at the end, with a little bit of the bump to the back of Parker White, executed that flawlessly, just went, a little too hard, overcorrected a little bit, as he would say. So for him, I think, again, another flawless executed night, just not good enough to beat Parker White tonight.
We've got another driver mic'd up and with us at the stage, Graham Boland. Graham, congratulations on making it to this championship 4 and being in a position. I want to start with how it ended. A little bit of damage, it looked like, for you with a yellow, around 20 laps to go, and I was leaning on Blake's expertise on how much we thought that damage may have been affecting it, but you stayed in the top 10. Just kind of tell us about the end of that race.
After that damage, it took a lot of the speed out of the car. Like, I had to do everything to even keep up on the straightaway. I had to burn a lot of fuel. So, but like that first run, I was really good. I went from like 26th to like almost 6th. So the second run, I was kind of just chilling, saving a little bit. And then, someone just got loose off 2, I think, and then overcorrected. I could be wrong. And then, I started being a menace. And then, just sent it and hope for the best. And then I finished 3rd somehow. So.
I know you and I talked a lot pre-race about how this track would widen out, whether you think it would or lack thereof. What was kind of your, what was your experience tonight with that and how that played in your factor? Because it seemed like that first run you did a great job with adapting to it.
Yes, so the bottom in 3 and 4 came in. The top in 1 and 2 I was ripping once my tires were cool. It was pretty much in. It's just like people are a little bit scared to run the top because it kind of burns up your tires because there's barely any rubber up there. But like once it gets laid down a little bit, you can run up there. But to get clean air on my nose, I would always try to run where people weren't. So I was just going all over the track, kind of peek my left front out a little bit. But other than that, I'm kind of happy with what I did, other than like maybe be a little bit further up track position-wise. But we were really fast. We had a good shot until the front end damage. But, I'd still maximize with what I had.
Of course, we saw you mentioned starting in the 20s with a little bit of work to do out of the gate. You made up a ton of spots on that first run. And then when we got the yellow, Blake had pointed out, it felt like that was right when you guys kind of fell off a little bit and maybe used up the maximum tire life. It's impossible to predict how these races are going to go, right? Last year we just had 1 caution, I believe. This time a handful. Was there any concern when you're driving through the field that if this goes green, I'm kind of putting all my eggs in one basket? Or was it that was the easiest or the most obvious path forward for you to make that decision to really go for it?
I was actually saving. Once I got up to like 7th or 6th, I realized, I had to back it down. I'm on the same tire as everyone else. So I started backing it down a little bit. And then we were about to go towards the later part of the stint, and we never really got there. So the caution came out like lap 30, and I was about to get the balance back to where the tires were a little bit cool. I feel like I was about to go forward, so kind of wish it went like last year a little bit more, but at the end of the day, I tried to do the best I could.
As far as the outlook on your season, I know it was a season, at least in the first half, that did not go the way you wanted. I know 2 months ago, did you think you would even be sitting in this position to have a shot to win a championship?
I didn't really think about too far forward at that moment. Like, I was just focusing on every race, trying to maximize every race. Like, I still need to work on qualifying, obviously. I qualified 26th tonight, but it didn't really hurt me as much as I thought it would. But, still, if you start up front, the race is 10 times easier.
Well, you look back, and again, we were just having the same conversation with Bobby. By making it to this point, obviously locked into this series for next year. This is a spot that you've been in before, a third-place finish in the championship. That was back in 2022. Having these experiences, and we've kind of asked everybody this, how would you compare this trip here to the NASCAR Hall of Fame compared to the first time you did it? Was anything different, more comfortable, and what's it like being in such a unique environment?
Coping with the pressure was a big step for me. Like I just focused on it being another race. I was performing really well, and I was there at the end. Unlike last time I was here, we made a bad adjustment and then we went backwards. So I was actually going forward even though we had front end damage. So I'm pretty happy with that. But it still stings a little bit because could be 75K out there that I don't have. But Parker's a deserving champion. We finished 1, 2, 3, and Steven just made a little bit of bobble on the last lap, and it's so easy to not predict the air correctly going into the corner, so he just got a little bit tight, and then Parker just went through, and then Bobby tried to throw a Hail Mary, but at the end of the day it was just racing.
Well, we'll let you get out of here. There's a great showing of support from the Quick Trip Pioneers Gaming group here and friends and family as well, but we appreciate your time, and again, congratulations on a really successful season.
Thank you, guys.
That's Graham Bolin. We've had a chance now, Blake, to talk with the other 3 drivers of our Championship 4 and get their thoughts. And let's take a look at the screen and see where things shake out when it's all said and done. And it is confirmed. Thought that race win was going to be enough to do so. It is. So Williams Esports takes home the team championship. I don't know off the top of my head if we've ever seen a driver team championship duo in the same year, but that's about as good as you could ask for the Williams group.
Well, and again, I think credit to Parker White. He obviously helps them get that with the win, and the unfortunate issues for Zielinski kind of dropping back there late kind of worked that into fruition. But, Parker White had an incredible year, and it takes 2 to tango when it comes to these team standings, so you could really say the same for both Williams Esports and JGR, Zielinski, Falkingham. But Donovan Strauss had a great run going early on in this race as well, but had some solid finishes in the points to put him in this position.
Yeah, at one point tonight, M80 and William Byron Esports were tied. M80 edges out for that. Again, the top 5 teams will walk away in the money. So that'll be Williams, Gibbs, M80, William Byron, and Spire Motorsports. Those are the top 5 in the team championship. And it's always interesting to see on a year-by-year basis, how do these teams change, right? Again, back to the contract talk. You're not locked in with a team for 3-5 years. Some drivers have historically always competed for the same team. Others don't, so you already look forward to free agency and how all of that plays into effect. And I mentioned there's no rest for the wicked, and the bottom 20 in this series have to get right back to work. You get 7 days, and we kick off the first race of the eNASCAR Contender iRacing Series, where those drivers will compete on a couple of weeks to compete to be the top 20 drivers in that series, re-qualify for this. And again, Blake, you have a unique perspective because you'll be competing in that alongside them.
Yeah, it'll be really fun to hopefully put our drafty cars Chevrolet somewhere towards the front of the field towards the end of this one. And we also got the College Series race that'll be competing just before that, so it'll be a full night of eNASCAR. Even though the Coke Series comes to a close here tonight with the championship, it's going to be a long off season with the eNASCAR College iRacing Series and, of course, the Contender Series rolling on to see if some of your favorites that you saw compete tonight will or won't be back with a chance to be on the stage next year.
And I think Parker White won the college race just a couple of weeks ago. Wilson's been a champ there, so you'll see a lot of these similar faces. eNASCAR Tuesday nights are not going anywhere. And how's this for a unique opportunity? I don't know if there's been a single point all season where all 4 of us have been in the booth at the same time. They don't let me do pre-race. I get to show up late. So now we're all here together. We bring Camille and Alan back into the desk, and both of you had a chance to watch the race. Alan, you were stuck with us here for most of it. We enjoyed having you. Camille, you were mixing around, so I'll jump to you first on this. Being able to be in this atmosphere, what was it like watching the race?
Just seeing the passion. I think, as we got down to those final moments, you could cut the room with that tension that was in the air. It was just so intense. And really, I think that ending, that finish, will go down in eNASCAR history as probably the most exciting finish of all time.
It was electric. I moved over here for the start and was sitting in the crowd waiting for the trophy to be presented. It was electric, that final lap, because we had the different factions, the Steven Wilson faction, the Graham Boland faction, and then the Parker White faction was probably the most surprised out of all of them.
No fights, right?
No
Kept it clean.
No fights, but the wave of emotion and sound and different cheers, it was unbelievable that we all got to experience that together. It was really cool.
And how supportive all the families were, and the cheer sections for the other drivers as well. And I think that's what makes it a little bit harder for some of the drivers, because it's just like they're seeing their friend go on to something they wanted, and although that's great to celebrate, it's like they're going to come back here next year and give it their all.
Yeah, I don't think there's many drivers in the series. There'll be some, because stuff happens on the racetrack, that aren't friends off the track, right? A lot of them are teammates. They've been racing together. If you've been in this series for any handful of time, you've been racing with these guys forever. You're buddies. That's why I think this is such a unique opportunity, too, to come to this event, Blake, because we get to see people we haven't seen in a long time. For a lot of the drivers, media day included, they meet their fellow competitors for the first time. It is unique if things get dicey on the racetrack, that they're 5 feet apart. Sometimes it's better that they're in their separate sim rigs. But, you know, from like a sports concept, I've always felt that going to a sporting event, I'd rather go if there's 50% fans for one team and 50% the other, because the atmosphere is great, as opposed to just a complete washout. And I think there were a lot of nerves in the crowd for much of this. But, Camille, to your point, I mean, and Alan, you were there in the end, too, waiting on the trophy. I mean, we were watching as the action was going on in those final 2 laps, people jumping up and down, all 4 different sections of fans, if you will. You can't get that anywhere else besides this live event.
That is the case, and again, I think you said it pre-race that this is kind of a celebration of sim racing in a way, and we get to see a lot of people that we don't necessarily see on a day-to-day basis. Again, we do all these races, we call them from our homes. We don't get to see each other face-to-face, but we get to all converge here, talk about the love that we have for this hobby, for this activity. We get to see all these folks from iRacing, from NASCAR, from the industry, and all the dignitaries that we have, and they kind of get to converge all into one spot, and it just makes it such a special event. Aside from the fact that we get to crown a champion on top of that, it just makes it really special, and each year the game has stepped up. So maybe we'll have the full marching band next year, not just the drum line, but the percussion next year.
We need the full marching band, because this year really has leveled up the competition from race after race, being just some of the results we weren't expecting to now this championship. It really is exciting, but it's all about this moment right here in the NASCAR Hall of Fame, us getting together, sharing that passion, like you said, with each other, and just having a lot of fun. There's a lot of people, you guys, as well as the whole production behind the scenes, the iRacing crew, the NASCAR crew, and more importantly, you at home, the fans that make events like this so possible. So thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
It really has.
Well, I always like to joke that because I'm not on Countdown, none of my takes are out there for the world, right? I don't have to stand behind a pick every week. So I'll continue to play Puppet Master, and I'll put you on the spot. We'll start with Alan on the far side. To wrap this season up, in a one sentence, 2024 was?
Surprising. Surprising to see the young talent. Surprising to see Parker White beat all those veterans. Parker White's the only one that's never been here before, and he went out and did it after not leading all night. What's he do? He wins the damn thing. Crazy.
Camille?
Yeah, I think this year showed that the series is very unexpected, and you never know how the competition will go year after year, and that's why you got to tune in.
I think that's a great point, because, yes, we saw a lot of familiar names in the championship four, but look throughout the field. We have former champions who didn't even make the top 30 in the points. That's how competitive this series gets, and it just steps up another level every single year.
Yeah, there is going to be a certain percentage of turnover, right? If any of those drivers in the top 20 from the qualifying series are to make it in, it means that people who have competed in this series this season, maybe for X amount of years up to this, either will walk away, not requalify. There is always that changing of the guard, and I think that's important context to add to this is, yes, it's about the championship. Yes, it's about the team championship, but when you have drivers at the end of an era, right, you can only have new talent come into this series when old talent steps aside, and I think that we continue to see the proverbial changing of the guard, if you will, and as we celebrate 15 seasons of this, this season has been no different. 18 rounds of this championship are now come and gone into our rearview mirror. And until next time, that is it for us here tonight for the NASCAR Hall of Fame. in behalf of us, everybody here at iRacing. For the crew at NASCAR, everybody on site, the dozens of people involved in our production behind the scenes and remote every year, and of course for our broadcast team here tonight. For Alan, Camille, Blake, and myself, Evan, I want to say thank you so much for being with us all season long, and thanks for tuning in with us tonight. It was a historic and unforgettable championship for finale, but congratulations go to Parker White, who is the 2024 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series champion. Good night from Charlotte.
Something that I can't explain. The wind is calling out my name. Let it rain on me. Oh yeah. You know I put in the hours, and I'm not gonna wait in line. I'm gonna take what's mine. To see. Oh yeah. You gotta take the lead. You gotta feel the fire. It's all that I see, and I still believe. You gotta take the lead. Oh yeah. I'll climb above where the darkness is. Tried to drag me down, but look who's laughing now. Look who's laughing now. You gotta take the lead.